Dave, just check once that are we live or not.
Yeah.
From here it is.
Can someone else check as well?
Yeah.
Everyone will check.
Yeah. Kar lo, kar
Today
lo.
is my relaxed day. I do not have
Did
to
you
make
send
any
the link to the
introduction. I
group?
just have to listen.
Oh yeah, it's left.
हाँ ग्रुप पर भी मोकले था ना एक बार.
Done. We are. Notification भी आ गया भाई.
Okay.
Perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go, भाई. Dave Chauhan will be introducing. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Nerdy About. And today's episode is a bit special because we're doing Nerdy About patriarchy. And the nerd today is Anshi, and we have 4 women on the panel. And this is something that we've been wanting to do for a while now.
मेरे को introduce ही नहीं किया भाई. बड़ा भाड़ में है, क्या मिला?
अरे wait ना करते yeah, we wanted to put 4 women with 2 men and let these women explain what patriarchy, feminism, what this whole movement is about, so that we can look at it and just learn a few things from apart from our usual way of thinking. So that's what this is about today. So we have Tarjuni, Anshi, me, Dev Chauhan, Veli, Sanjana, and of course Sneha.
Of course, never. Today's nerd is Anshi, and she'll be nerdy about patriarchy. And we all are here to discuss about it, and me and Dev are here to learn about it.
Yes.
And that is how I would define this episode as. Me and Dev and all the other members who will be in this episode, especially men, are here to learn about patriarchy.
Yes.
With that, let us go ahead. By Anshi, the stage is all yours.
Okay. So when you listen to the word patriarchy, when you listen to the word misogyny, misandry, feminism, patriarchy, pseudo-feminism, we think we're so aware of all of it that we use it as slang, we use it in our daily language without necessarily knowing what they mean and what the difference is. So I'll start by explaining what all of those terms mean. Patriarchy is a system of thought that basically puts men in charge. This system was not made by men, it was not made for the convenience of men. It evolved because of a way of living, and now essentially it has come up to a point where patriarchy is a system that keeps women subordinate to men. This system affects men and women equally. Okay, you all are also victims. You'll find out how. Now, misogyny is the mechanism through which patriarchy is put into force. Misogyny is the essential hatred towards women, and it's not necessarily all women. It's women who don't conform to the norms of patriarchy. It's women who don't agree to the power that men have. It is women who don't believe that they're subordinates to men. These are the women that misogyny targets. And the people targeting these women are not just men, they are women and men because, okay, I don't remember a time when a comment has just been made by a man. In any household, if you're not allowed to wear short clothes, your mom's telling you before your dad. So patriarchy is not a system. Misogyny. I'm so sorry. Misogyny is not a system that has been invented by men. It just benefits them, and it obviously disadvantages them in a lot of ways as well.
Before you go ahead, is it pronounced as misogyny or misogyny?
Okay, so usually if you go US and UK pronunciations, well, there's a lot of differences, right? So you can pronounce it as both. None of the pronunciations are essentially wrong.
Okay.
But I think if you go to Google, it's misogyny, not misogyny.
Okay, and explain patriarchy in the most simplest word. Keep the notes aside.
Patriarchy
Explain
is a
what patriarchy is according to Anshi.
patriarchy, according to me, is a system that puts women subordinate to men.
Can you explain it in Hindi?
Patriarchy essentially उसका मतलब ये होता है that I don't okay गुजराती में समझाए तो
चलेगा.
okay patriarchy એટલે औरत और women in general they will always remain second to a man એટલે એ કોઈ દિવસ first नहीं अरे यार I'm so sorry I'm not used to okay patriarchy as a system just means that no woman will ever come before a man.
No. The point was to make it in as simple language as possible, not what you have written in the notes.
Okay, patriarchy means a woman will always be a number two.
Okay, that's a good definition.
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you mind all three of you define patriarchy in your instances or in your like definition perspective?
Okay. So according to me, and I agree with Anshi that yes, patriarchy का मतलब ये होता है कि जिसमें a woman is put second below a man, and it is a men-dominated environment, or anything like any environment which is dominated by men, any situation, any concept, it is known as patriarchy.
So it is a man's world is the
Yeah.
definition.
Men
of
are put
patriarchy.
first.
So patriarchy assumes that a man's life is the default.
That's a good definition. Nice.
Yeah, the men are in the center and everything revolves around.
Revolves
Yeah.
around.
I agree with
You
them.
guys will have the same definition.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree with them.
You doesn't have a different
I
definition?
think to a lot of level they think women cannot outdo men
Okay.
and they are easily oppressible. There is a reason where they are not given some validation and all because they have a perception कि वो मान जाएगी, वो कंट्रोल में आ जाएगी, ऑप्रेस हो जाएगी. उसको एक थोड़ा सा इमोशनल मैनिपुलेट कर दोगे ना तो शायद वो मान जाएगी. एंड दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस स्टिल इवन नाउ. There are people who are brainwashed patriarchs, who are educated patriarchs,
Okay.
and those are more difficult to convince than people who are illiterate. तो जो educated होते हैं, for example, आप एक family में होते हो, you have a son, you have a daughter, both are well educated, तुमने दोनों को same school में रखा and everything, they both are excellent. Now you have the opportunity to send them abroad or then you will hesitate to send your daughter more than you hesitate to send your son. So I think that is the
I also want to add one thing to that is कि अगर in a family setting अगर लड़की को कुछ देते हैं ना तो that is considered as a privilege कि हम उसको बाहर जाने देते हैं, हमने उसको ये करने दिया. While when it's a man child or man child that is the correct word it is not a privilege. हाँ लड़का है करेगा.
you put yourself in authoritative position.
Exactly. So essentially, a man's life is their default. If a woman is doing the same thing, it's a privilege.
From what Vedi said, I remembered a dialogue from Dil Dhadakne Do.
Yeah, exactly.
In which Priyanka's husband says that मैंने तो allow किया है इसे business करने के लिए. So then Farhan Akhtar says कि allow it puts you in a position of authority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is what patriarchy
And
is.
so, if you look at patriarchy from a very economic perspective as well, like forget emotions, forget social stuff. If you look at it from an economic perspective as well, a patriarchal society is a one designed for men. Okay, your phone screen, essentially a lot of Pro Max model screens have exceeded 6 inches, which makes it difficult for an average female hand to be able to operate the phone with a single hand because it was designed for male hands. If you look at medical studies, most medical experiments take men as their sample size so that they don't have to account for menstrual complexities, and they ignore the fact that if they don't take those into account, how will they cater to women with the same diagnosis?
Okay, interesting. And how much is the population divide worldwide?
It is almost 50-50, that's what I'm saying, right?
51%.
And abhi to I think the 2021 का sex ratio, if you take Kerala का ही female sex ratio ज़्यादा है. So you see how in Norway, if you go to Norway, right, they have to snowplow everything after there's a snowstorm or something, right? They will snowstorm highways before main roads. Why? Because men need to travel to and from work, and they prioritize that over women who need to go to grocery stores, over old people who need to come back home from daycare, stuff like that. So it is engraved so fundamentally into our way of life that we think that it's always been like this when it hasn't.
Okay. I'll come back to that point. I think I have a lot of arguments. Let's go ahead with that. सेटअप के बारे में तो बहुत सारे लोग बोल रहे हैं कि भाई ये अमीरों का सेटअप कहाँ से आ गया अचानक से. This is of course not my house. This is Anshi's house. And yes, she's talking about patriarchy. Go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry, sorry for that joke. I had
No,
it
it's okay,
inside
it's
me.
okay. Okay, so after misogyny, we talk about misandry. Misandry is the opposite of misogyny, is the hatred toward men. Okay.
Sorry, I'm that annoying student, but is misogyny only in statements or is it something that exists in general?
Misandry ke misogyny?
Misogyny.
Misogyny is a practice that we see happening because it fuels patriarchy. Misogyny is hatred towards women. Misandry is hatred towards men. Right. So misandry essentially, even though a concept that is very real, mostly just exists in theory and it does not have as much historical backing as misogyny does, because as a world, as a globe, we've never seen a point of time when women have been in control economically, politically, and in complete military power to a point where men can become their subordinates. Globally, આખા વર્લ્ડની કોઈ દિવસ એવી મૂવમેન્ટ નથી થઈ that is enforced globally. Obviously, even to date, there are tribes in South India that follow the matriarchal system, which means after marriage a man will go to the wife's house and stuff. But that is very specific niche cultural practices. Eastern India as well, exactly. So misandry is more in theory than in practice, because we've never really seen a world where it has been practiced. But today, if you go to someone who's extremely feminist and who thinks they're above everyone else, their Instagram bio will be misandrist.
I think it's a movement that people, more of women, have started out of rage for what
Exactly.
has been oppressed, since
But
ages.
that is still in statement.
That is
Misogyny
in practice, yeah. Misandry, if you look at the world right now, you can never practice misandry in this world. You have to get to a point where there's equality before you put someone else superior.
Okay, got it.
Right.
I think misandry is just female rage.
Yeah, but if you look at it as a system that is opposing misogyny, right? Misandry is just as bad. I get that we've been systematically oppressed for so long, but assuming superiority instead of equality is the same thing that men have been doing for so long, right? In 10,000 years, it will be just as bad. So, yeah. Well,
Yeah, do you think misandry is just hate towards men, or is it also just the rejection of man as a, as worthy of respect or whatever?
that is pseudo-feminism. There's a difference between misandry and pseudo-feminism. They're not
Could you
the same
explain?
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, misandry is essentially me going and telling a man that I can be your boss. Pseudo-feminism is me cutting that man's paycheck, telling him that you're not worthy to work at my position, and then taking his job.
So pseudo-feminism is the process of actually doing it.
Yeah,
Right.
Misandry is
misandry,
just a label.
pseudo-feminism is basically, okay, misandry is hatred towards men, and this hatred, just like misogyny can also be absorbed by women, misandry can also be absorbed by men. Okay, if we were to live in a misandrist world 1,000 years from now, men and women would be oppressing men. Just like as we live in a misogynist society, men and women oppress women. In a misandrist society, men and women would be oppressing men. But if you talk about pseudo-feminism, it is a movement that was born out of feminism. Now, feminism is essentially was a movement started for equality, and the term was officially adopted in the women's suffrage movement in 1890s, right? And it was coined in France. Feminism, I see so much debate about people being, why is it called feminism? It's about equality. Why does it have female in it? You have to understand that it was a movement started to combat female oppression. That is why it is called feminism. There is no ulterior motive to it. It's just like other words that we adopt and we start using in our vocabulary. This is the same thing. The term was formally coined by Charles
Also wanted
Fourier.
to ask this. We have this culture in our society that promotes chivalry. For
Yeah.
example, if you go on a date, the man should pay. The man should open the door. The man should slide the chair. Does that fit well with the principles of feminism? And if it does, in what circumstances?
Okay, so the concept of chivalry, you can look at it two ways. One way to look at it is that if the man is always paying, if the man is always opening the door, if the man is always driving the car, he is in control. He is in control of what happens on that date, where they go, where they come back from, how much they eat, how much do they pay. So, psychologically, if you look at an abusive relationship, chivalry is a means of ensuring that abuse continues because he is always in control. But if a man and a woman going out on a date, they earn similar, they both have a means of transport, and the man is offering to pay, the man is offering to drive. Okay, it's just something that you do out of respect or love for a person, right? So there are two angles to look at it, and it's not just necessary for a date, right? So if today me and Veli are going out to dinner, for example, and I have been very happy with our friendship, so I'm like, oh, you know what, I want to treat you today, I will pay for you and I will drop you home. even that is chivalry, right? Chivalry is not just what a man does for a woman on a date. Opening the door for an old person to enter behind you is also chivalrous, is also gentlemanly. That doesn't make it patriarchal, that doesn't make it
So
misogynistic.
basically, it should come out of neutral kindness.
It should come out of a place of respect for the person you're going out with,
Yeah.
not out of a place of trying to control what happens on that
But
day.
this is just 40% part of it, right? If you consider chivalry as a proper circle.
What
This
do you
particular
mean
part
by
is
chivalry? What is your definition?
Yeah, what's the other 60%?
I agree with your definition, but I am saying that many women value chivalry a lot.
I think
Even
we
I
do.
value chivalry a lot.
do.
I want the door
But-
to be opened for me.
I think what you're confusing is chivalry and spoiling a woman.
No, no, no. I'm not confusing that at all. I'm not going at the princess treatment extent at all. Like, even as something as basic as paying on your first date or whatever you guys consider it as chivalry, opening door. I think that is something I don't really understand. Opening doors and pulling chairs. I don't understand it, and that is something that I explicitly make clear when I go on any dates, right? But I understand that women value that part a lot more. They consider that as chivalry and they consider that as an attractive thing. Do you think that is good or bad?
Okay, so again, when a man is being chivalrous, when you know the ideal definition of a gentleman is fit, I think why women value it so much, or at least why I would value it so much, is because I'm not looking at it from a patriarchal misogynist. मैं वो सब तभी नहीं लगा रही हूँ. What I'm looking at is this person respects me enough, values me enough, cares for me enough to pull the door open for me, to pull my chair out. Okay, and I would do the same. I don't expect it to be a one-way thing. Okay, if I go on dates, I always offer to split because I don't like the fundamental concept of someone paying for me. If you're not my parent, you don't have to pay for me.
Okay.
That is what I value. But then again, if it's like an anniversary or something, and I have something that's been planned for me, something that's already been paid for, that is something we as people respect. We as people think that when a person does that, they're showing us that they care about us, that they love us. And that is not just true for men, right? If I were to throw my best friend a surprise birthday party, it is the same thing as a man taking me on a surprise date.
But I don't think women should value chivalry because men are stupid.
That does not mean women should not value
Exact.
chivalry, right?
I'm
Okay, men
I'll
are
tell you
stupid.
why.
That doesn't mean
I'll tell
women
you
don't
why.
value equality.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because your definition of chivalry, now that I am knowing it, is good. It is something that is actually interesting. Your way of judging men is interesting, but men don't see it that way. Men
that's a
will
men
just
problem,
see.
right?
Yeah, I understand. I am pointing out to say that because men are stupid, women should not value chivalry because they don't they understand chivalry from a very different perspective.
Exactly.
The first definition that you pointed out to, that is how men understand chivalry. As soon as they'll feel like they are in control, they'll do the thing their way.
Exactly.
And that is what becomes definition of
So-
chivalry according to them.
So exactly.
Women,
so-
as soon as they value chivalry, as soon as they consider that as a point of attractiveness, men will just copy certain part of it.
yeah.
Now men will consider that as an activity. They don't understand why they are pulling chair. They are just pulling chair because they know it is attractive.
Yeah.
Do you think
That
do
makes
you
a lot of
think
sense.
that chivalry leads to, like, basic chivalry will lead men into the position that they feel like they need to control everything now?
Yes.
Okay, so one
In
more
some
thing.
senses, it's not like
Yeah.
they'll
If they see a
feel
lot
like,
of
so sorry.
movies.
They'll
Okay.
feel like they are in control of that relationship. They are in control of that connection that is there in between that. That they are supposed to do the things. They will be the first one to be there. They will not consider that as an equal share from start itself.
Yeah.
So when you offer to pay, they'll still consider that as something that is chivalrous. Now they will know that it is something that is equal. But the essential definition of chivalry that is coming from the start, men don't face it in first instance. They see it from the third person perspective.
Crazy.
Men have heard about chivalry not from the dates that they have been to, because if they have been to dates, they will be feminists. Majority of men
in
have not
today's
been
day
to
and age,
dates.
if you're not a feminist, you can't get a date.
Majority of majority of men have not been to dates. So what they essentially understand chivalry is from movies, is from third person perspective.
Yeah.
That is where they will
So
misjudge.
do you
Also-
think they've just seen it and they're just copying it because they think that it'll make
Yes,
them
it'll
look
make
them
good?
more attractive.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a
Also,
formula.
one more
Yeah.
thing. So many men, if you like seen a lot of movies about abusive relationships, if you've seen a lot of shows about so many men think that paying on dates, opening doors, being chivalrous gives them the pass to pull anything.
Agreed.
Because I
Absolutely.
paid for you, I am allowed to treat your body the way I want to.
There is an gender driven.
Yeah,
Exactly.
essentially that is what I
Yeah.
was saying,
It's
that
a
they get in
transactional
control.
agreement.
Really,
So
Mike told
what
you.
becomes respect, love, and care for women
Absolutely
becomes
was
transaction for men, right? That, oh, I did this, now I get this. But the whole point of chivalry is that if you're doing it for something in return, it's not chivalry.
Exactly, they don't understand this. And also, women are communicating it a bit wrong.
Elaborate.
Yeah.
Majority of the reels that I've seen about chivalry is about a point or a point of instance where the man is opening the door and they'll be like, oh
Yeah.
my god, he did that for me and something like that. There is no perspective outside of it. The point where you are saying your view about chivalry was not at all clear to any men before this.
I mean, it was clear to the men I've been on dates with.
Yeah,
But
so
okay.
the point is, more women should be like you and make it clear to the men that they are with, or make it clear to the friends that they are with, because that is when they'll actually understand
Yeah.
the definition of chivalry.
Exactly.
Currently, they feel like
It's a
being nice
transaction.
is chivalry.
It's
It
not.
is.
It's basic
It
human
is.
decency to be nice.
But it is basic human decency to be nice with everyone. What they think is being nice with women will make them more attractive. That is why they are chivalrous.
So I
Adding
will
on
to
to that,
all
I have a
men
They don't
question.
value
who will ever
chivalry,
watch
they value
this.
attractiveness.
To all men who are here, to all men who will ever watch this, if you're nice to me, but if we go outside and you're not nice to the valet, you're not nice to another woman in front of me, you've lost me there. Just because you're nice to me does not mean I find you attractive. I find you attractive because you're nice. Period. End of it.
Thank you for saying
The
that.
for
That
me
is
does not
perfect
exist.
definition.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that
the exact
definition.
question
I
I
like
had. Do
that
you think it's
definition.
good if a man, for example, pulls the door just for you, pulls the chair just for you?
No, if there's an old lady behind me, I want you still standing there, making sure she enters.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
One more thing, by the way. In Indian cultures, we have been taught mostly by our moms, our daddies, and they tell us that it's very beautiful to do these things for women, right? And वो हमें सिखाते हैं that at least in my home I've learned that women are हमारा घर है मैंने वो सिखाया हुआ है कि women are supposed to be treated very nicely. They're supposed to be given the best. They're supposed to be treated like princesses and all of that. Do you think that kind of mindset is something that you guys like, or do you want to be treated as equals?
I personally, so the whole, I'm just a girl concept, it's really enraging to me. I find it very frustrating because that gives men the pass to think that, oh, she thinks she's beneath me. So I can think that. Right, so I want to be treated like I am the most important person in the house. And I love being treated like that. But then I also treat other people like that.
But no, that is something that is not particularly to women. It is something that men also want. So essentially, people don't understand that part of things.
Okay, so
Like-
I'll explain. So again, coming from the chivalry notion and mixing that with this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is last year. I was at the visa office in Mumbai. There was a woman struggling. Her dad was on a wheelchair. There was a ramp. She was not able to get him on the ramp because imna banne hath ma saman hato. And obviously, you want to help a person out, right? My mom told my dad to go and help her out, and my dad did. He pulled the wheelchair and he helped her out. But when he was doing that, he was not thinking that, oh, I am helping her because she is a woman, because she needs a man's help.
That's basic.
Yeah,
Basically,
exactly.
yeah.
But see, that's what most men of our generation don't get. They think that, oh, she's a woman, that's why she needs my help.
And that is why I thank you so much for pointing that out. I am just a girl trend is really I am not just a girl.
Yeah, I am a million other things, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So basically, the whole concept of not just concept of chivalry was never born out of control. It was born out of respect. So the reason so many people argue that chivalry is ideally just a way for men and women to promote the concept of misogyny and for men to remain in control is completely wrong. That's what it's become. And when I talk about how patriarchy as a system evolved, you will also understand that patriarchy was also not born out of keeping men in charge. It was born out of the economic and social needs of the society at the time, and we never went back because those needs kept expanding. And we stopped finding a way to combat genders with that. We just worked with what was going on.
Man, just a second. Chat, I want you guys to not discuss things internally, but listen and ask questions. If men are discussing patriarchy with other men, that is patriarchy. So essentially, listen and then question. Secondly, there are 2-3 things being said. I am just a girl concept is just packaging patriarchy, escaping responsibility. I don't think so. because it is just a girl just tired of what is happening around her and then making a song about it. It's just that people who picked that song up is making it into a different kind of things. It is not escaping
Okay, if you ask
responsibility.
me,
It is
I'm
something
just a
that men
girl.
will also make.
If you ask me, I'm just a girl is the female equivalent of boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
boys
It's
will be boys.
escaping the
I'm a
responsibility.
miserable man.
Yeah.
I'm a small town miserable man. It's one of my favorite songs. I listen to it when I'm actually low, when I'm actually tired of whatever I have done in my day. That is when I listen to it. So it's completely fine by it. It's just that people who have taken it in different ways is leading to some causes. We can't blame someone for making that song. They're just stop
Thank you for saying that.
overcomplicating
Thank
things.
you for saying that. That is why you can't disrespect feminism because of the existence of pseudo feminism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Exactly. But you know,
Tu
among
yaya nahi kar. Yesterday you told me that I don't want to discuss feminism as a concept because it is translated too much into pseudo feminism.
exactly my
Yeah,
point. That
I-
is what I'm saying. So many people do not know the difference between feminism and pseudo feminism because they think the line is very thin between the two, but it is not the case.
is not.
I'll tell you what Dave's perspective must be. I have not discussed that with him, but I think if, say, for example, topic is nerdy about feminism, men will not sign up to that.
Yeah.
Men will not watch that video
About that.
Yeah.
because they know their ideas are going to be
Yeah,
challenged in that.
But that was not the discussion.
What
we were
I
having.
हाँ ठीक है तेरा पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं हो सकता है बट मैं ये मानता हूँ कि because if say for example the title will be nerdy about feminism they will not sign up to it because they know their ideas are being challenged. But if it is about nerdy about patriarchy, they'll still approach it from the curiosity perspective of understanding it.
Yeah.
But chances of them switching up to the point of
No,
feminism
no, no,
is
I get
something
it.
really
I
low.
also did not want it to be about feminism because in today's world, most of us know what feminism is. Most of us know whether we stand with it or against it, right? But when you talk about patriarchy, feminism and misogyny are lines of thought developed in the last few hundred years. Patriarchy is a system that has evolved over the last 10,000 years. Until you don't understand that, you won't understand why misogyny came into being and why feminism is essential.
Okay, and one more question: what is choice feminism? Someone asked that in the chat, and I have no idea about that word.
Okay, so how I look at choice feminism is essentially if you go to the textbook definition, there's 4 branches of feminism: liberal, radical, socialist, and intersectionalist. Choice feminism is being a feminist when it benefits you. Selectively feminist.
Yes, we have studied about it.
Yeah. Choice feminism is basically if, for example, a man is getting a certain amount of medical attention for a disease, I would want the same medical attention if I have PCOS, PCOD, if I have a hormonal disease, whatever. Basically, I want equal medical attention or I want equal pay, for example. Okay, that is the feminism in me saying that I want equal pay. Choice feminism is I still don't want to work as much for it. Get it? Choice feminism is being a feminist when it's
Selectively
Convenient
feminist.
for
समझ
you.
yeah,
में आ गया.
hypocritical feminist.
Yeah, hypocrisy.
A question to you guys. For example, in workplaces, women might face a lot of difficulties during, for example, their menstrual cycles, right? So, do you think that whenever they receive equal pay, they should receive menstrual leaves, and even when they do, they should get equal pay? Because I believe that they should. That society should be able to
Okay.
absorb that particular
Yeah,
loss.
obviously. So I personally have always believed that menstrual leave should be a thing because I am bleeding 24/7. Okay, if men had menstrual cycles, we would have 1 week of compulsory menstrual leave every single month. Argue with a wall. Okay, I know that this would happen. I am bleeding consistently. I don't want you to give me a 5-day menstrual leave from the day I start spotting to the day I finish my menstruation cycle. I want a 2 to 3 day leave every month when my flow is at its heaviest, when I would rather die than walk to work. 2 days to 3 days of menstrual leave a month is very rational. Okay, menstrual cycles differ for every single woman on this planet. My menstrual cycle went from being 1 week long to 3 days long to 4 days long over the course of the last 5 years. So you can't exactly determine કે પછી તારે એવું કરવું પડે કે અચ્છા આની 3 દિવસ છે તો આને 3 દિવસ પેડ લીવ, આની 4 દિવસ છે તો આને 4 દિવસ પેડ લીવ. That is very inconvenient, that is very complex. But I do feel like a standard 3-day leave is necessary.
And do you think a 3-day leave, would you guys appreciate that the pay is equal
Yeah.
to men?
Yeah.
So my question then
But right
remains.
now, I think they do have the this.
It is not
policy.
very commonplace, but yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
Some organizations do
Very few, I
very
think.
few. Very
Yeah,
few.
and you know, maybe there can be provisions of working part time from home on your menstrual.
Yeah, work from home.
I don't have a problem with working. I have
Exactly.
a problem with sitting at a desk in formal clothes when my
Right.
stomach is about to blast.
Even the
Right.
9 to
Physically going up
5
to the
construction
workplace
was
is
made for the men.
Exactly.
It was not for the women
Menstruation
biologically
is
as
not a
well.
choice that we get. We have not chosen this thing. We are a women and we have to go through it.
Yeah, so if you know, if there was a system where you were given a choice at the age of 22 that, you know, do you want to have kids, do you not want to have kids, someone who does not want to have kids should not have to go through periods every month, but we don't have that choice.
Right. So the kind of understanding that I have about these issues that touch with economics and business and all that is कि, for example, अगर we start having menstrual leaves, right? Then हमारी understanding ये भी है कि companies should be forced to have menstrual leaves,
Yeah,
and
they
then
should.
they should also be forced to have an equal men to women ratio in their workplace.
They should.
Because if they do have menstrual leaves, they will be incentivized not to have as many women on board, and that will impact women only negatively.
So why do you think women are not employed, man? Because menstrual leave देना दे, maternity leave तो देनी पड़ती है.
Right.
So the whole concept of patriarchy leading to a world being designed for men is that no matter how hard I try, I will always be faced with inequality simply for being a woman. Because okay, we talk so much about bodily autonomy, right? For women, for men. Now, if you talk about men, they are denied bodily autonomy on the grounds of you guys are just war machines, man. कल World War III चालू हो गया, every single working man will be deployed as a military, you know, to fight. So your body does not have autonomy in the sense that 10 years down the lane, if you were a martyr in a war, your name is just a number on a newspaper. That is how men are denied bodily autonomy in a war
Right.
situation.
Although less right now.
Less right now, but you know, if you talk about World War One, World War Two, or periods,
Right.
No, not less right now. I disagree with that statement. At least in terms of war.
at least in terms of war, not
Yeah,
less
but
right now.
we have.
But if you
far
look
less-
at women,
exactly, quantity is
if
less.
you look at women, right,
Yeah,
we
but
are
where it is
denied
increasing,
bodily
where it is
autonomy
increasing.
whether
It is
we.
increasing by one or two people. Sorry,
So- it's
but
okay.
in general case scenario, even today in Ukraine, the people who are being picked up to join the war are men.
Yeah,
They specifically bifurcate on basis of that.
yeah.
Fair.
So
And
women, whenever they join voluntarily. They never forced to join.
no
Men are
woman can
actually
be
forced.
deployed as a military person
Yes.
in like a situation
So yeah,
of
it
war.
is not increasing. It is something that just men in general say that it is increasing just to, you know, give
Yeah.
that part of 2 to 3 women that might be part of it. But in larger case scenario, even like till last year, NDA didn't have ladies washroom because ND and women were never allowed to give ND exam in India also.
Yeah, and see, if you look at it, being a woman means I don't get to control when I get my period. I don't get to control when I hit my menstrual cycle. I don't get to control when I hit menopause. If I have an irregular period cycle, I could be at a wedding in a white lehenga and I would go back to my room and find out that I bled through it. Why? Because even though my bodily autonomy is not being violated, some part of it will never be with me. So it is as a default to live with that since the day you're born, to know that you will never have complete bodily autonomy because some part of your body will always be changing whether you like it or not. True for men and women, right? You don't control your hormonal development in your in your teenage years. You don't control when you hit puberty, how you hit puberty. That is true for all human beings. But especially for women, no matter how much body positivity and bodily autonomy I have, one irregular period cycle would mean that my life is disrupted for the next 2 months because I have to get adjusted to that. I have to get adjusted to when I'm PMSing, when I'm in the luteal phase, when I'm ovulating, when I get my period, where do I need to carry pads, where are pads convenient? Because let's face it, pads are not convenient. They're inconvenient. You know when the movie Barbie was released, 2023, Margot Robbie,
Yes.
Barbie, Oppenheimer, the whole era.
Yeah.
उसके 2 महीने बाद से period pads started being texted with real human blood. 2023. Before that, period pads weren't tested with human blood
Yeah, it was just like.
because they thought it was gross.
Oh my god, I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
If you look at Stefina ads, right, from 10 years ago, they pour a green liquid on the pad.
Yeah,
What is that
exactly.
green liquid?
Yeah, I was
It is not supposed to absorb dish soap. It is supposed to absorb blood.
I had
And
seen a
we as men
video.
were never told about these things. by our
Exactly.
parents.
So that's what I'm saying, right? Patriarchy as a system is also not letting men know about the problems women face, because એને કહીને શું કરીશ, he has better things to look after.
Yeah.
Arre.
And there's also stigma around
Shut
it.
up.
Let her speak now. I'm so sorry.
Pilu, a person, like a man was working in Stay Free, and when he had gotten the job, he thought
Oh,
that
will you add banana?
yeah, it was a scrub for washing dishes. A
Oh
pad
my
was a
God.
scrub for washing dishes because it was like the pad was they poured blue liquid on that in the ads,
Right.
and he had to create an ad, like he was working for the ads wala advertisement department,
Yeah.
and the man thought it was for scrubbing and washing dishes.
Exactly.
But from ad perspective, it is purely because it is not allowed to show blood. On
Yeah, but like not just that. Even in clinical testing, blood was not used till
Yeah,
2023.
that I know. That is something interesting.
So we had Barbieheimer before we had pads being tested with real human blood. So you get how deeply rooted it is in our system.
Go with the Akshay Kumar way. Sonam Kapoor se test करवाओ भाई. You guys didn't get that joke?
Padman, yeah. So yeah, coming back to the origin of patriarchy. Basically, if you look at the Paleolithic era, which was from 3.3 million years ago to 10,000 years ago, that was the Paleolithic era. Emma Homo erectus ne badi human species ati, they all translated into one. Everything happened there, right? Till that point, we used to live in an egalitarian society where men and women were considered equals. We have no biological, anthropological, archaeological, or social evidence supporting that tyare men-dominated societies. There is absolutely no evidence from before 10,000 years ago. Why? Because tyare men used to go hunting and fishing, women used to work in agriculture. They used to collect plant produce and they used to collect clothing items, patta pehenne ke and all that stuff. Tyare 80% of the calorie consumption of a person's day used to come from food that women collected. Okay, because how much chicken can you eat in a day? You need sides, right? So 60 to 80% of the calorie consumption of women, of all people, came from what women collected. And it was an egalitarian society where there was balance. Now, essentially, if you look at it from an economic point of view, you can't have surplus, you can't have savings, you can't have investments if you have to carry everything you have on your back every day. You can't expand beyond your primary needs if you're carrying your life on your back, because they were nomads, they were herders, they never stayed in one place because they did not know how to. Okay, they used up resources at one place, they did not know how to generate new resources, so they just moved to another place. So they had to carry a lot of stuff with them. So the primary catalyst of life was their basic needs. They did not think about આજે ખાવાનું પતી ગયું તો કાલે શું ખાઈશ, because they did not have the space or preservation methods to carry that much food, right? So there was no surplus, there was no savings, there was no investment. And biologically men and women are different, we all know that. There is no debate about that. When I say I'm a feminist, I don't mean I want to be 200 pounds and be able to knock a guy out of the park.
Sexual dimorphism in between both.
Exactly. Our hormones, our body structure, our bone structure, our muscle strength, everything varies. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how we were designed biologically. A man's body was designed to attack, to predate. That is why even 3.3 million years ago, you guys were the ones who hunted, because your body was designed for that. Your body adapted to that. A woman's body adapted to be able to reproduce, to be able to nurture what comes out of it, to breastfeed, to be able to hold a baby and do a million other things at once, because their life did not stop when they had a baby. What we're led to believe right now, that it's the end of your life, we believe that right now because in some ways, in most ways, it is. For a woman today, having a baby is the end of her life right now. You have 6 months, you can't work for 6 months. Even after that, like, oh, she's a mom, she'll have to juggle so much, we can't pay you as much. What if you have to leave in the middle of the day because your child is sick? Because you don't expect a dad to leave in the middle of the day because the child is sick. My father will not have to leave his OPD if I'm sick, because his job is considered important, because his existence is considered more important than the existence of me or my mother. Why? Simply because he's a man. So in the Paleolithic era, that was not a problem, because they knew what their bodily functions were and they carried them out, because कोई discrimination नहीं था. Just because a woman was giving birth did not make her any less important. But when we entered the Neolithic era, which is 10,000 years ago to 2000 BCE, that was the era when humans started settling down. You know, the birth of civilizations, Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, Greek civilization, Egyptian civilizations. We started to settle at one place. We learned how to grow food. We learned how to accumulate food. We learned how to domesticate animals. So during that time, what happened is there was a possibility for surplus, there was a possibility for storage, there was a possibility for saving and investment, there was a possibility of owning land, owning resource, having value in your community. So obviously હવે હું ચાર લોકોનું ખાવાનું ફ્રૂટ ઝાડ પરથી તોડું અને હું ચાર લોકો માટે એક વીટ ફિલ્ડમાં વસ્તુઓ પ્લાન્ટ કરું. There is a difference in how both of those systems would work. There it's okay if I just pull the fruit out of my hand. Here I need to plow, I need to irrigate, I need to winnow, I need to thresh. So there is more physical force required. Because there is more physical force required, the tools are heavier, the tools are more complex. Now, if a woman who is 9 months pregnant cannot plow the field, there is nothing wrong with that. I have an entire human being inside of me. I'm sorry if I'm not able to pick up the plow. There's nothing wrong with that. There still isn't. But practically, if you see, if it is a community of 100 people, 50 men, 50 women, 10 of those women are pregnant, other 10 are on their menstrual cycles. Obviously, it is essential that people work, because without work, you will not be able to sustain. So, the male to female ratio in the farm is more. Men are more men than women working in the farm. Not because they want to dominate women, but because it is not physically possible for her to plow the field at that point of time. So, away from there, it was just that men were more capable of agricultural work than women were, because at certain points in their life, it was not physically possible for them to do it. And there was nothing wrong or impractical about it. They were still carrying out a necessary function of continuing a civilization. But now, if I am the one working on the field day and night, if I'm a man and I'm working tirelessly, I would want that field to belong to me. Just like a woman, a mother has more connect with the kid, I would want that farm to belong to me, right? Because even though she couldn't do it for practical reasons, I was the one who did it. So I expect कि भाई मेरे वो land पे मेरी autonomy हो, and there is nothing wrong with that also. So that man owned that field. Now, if you own something, you would want it to go to your biological heir. You would not want to just give it away to someone who has nothing to do with you. So that is when the system of polyandry was abolished. A woman can only be with one man, because maternity is confirmed, right? कि अगर वो बच्चा उस औरत का है, तो वो उसी औरत का है. किसी और औरत का बच्चा उसके अंदर नहीं जा सकता है. Basic biology. Sorry for the language. But obviously, infidelity, adultery. So a woman could be pregnant with another man's baby, but she could not be pregnant with another woman's baby, right? So that is when strictly the system of monogamy was adopted for women, so that a man can have his biological heir to own his field.
For man, monogamy was not there, right?
No, that still exists, man. In so many communities,
I disagree with your definition of that being there after, in that particular era, because of farmland wala thing. Because I feel at that particular time, men had 2-3 wives, and they had biological heir. So I don't think biological heir might be the reason of having monogamy for women. Feel like that is something that could have arrived in the hunting and gathering era right there itself, because I think
so what the thing is कि अगर जो if I as a woman today am pregnant with a man's baby, for example, the person A's baby, he would not want that I also give birth to someone else's child. That is why the system.
that is something that is an ache now. Why did that ache arrive? You define it as having farm and having one biological heir. I disagree with that particular statement.
I think what she meant was
Yeah.
monogamy was applied to women and not men because of the thing.
I get it from that perspective, but I don't think that arrived at that particular era. I think that arrived way before it, because that is something that is dear to men, that they need to have one biological child which is eternally powerful. If, say for example, that woman goes and have child with someone else, that child if gets better than their child, or if gets second to that particular child, the hierarchy shifts.
Yeah.
Because the eldest one is something that is considered to be
Yeah.
the best
So
one.
basically,
So that is why women are not allowed to have husbands, but a lot of husbands, but men are allowed to have multiple wives.
so actually, if you look at it from a historical perspective, right, even during the time of Mahabharata, North India ma, it is not confirmed, we don't have concrete evidence, but North India ma, if you study the history textbook for class 12, there is some places it says that it is possible that polyandry was practiced even then. But the reason that I talk about this when I'm talking about the evolution of patriarchy is to understand that if you consider this as an example, this is sort of the first ways in which a woman's autonomy was challenged. You know, he can have multiple wives, you can't have multiple
Yeah,
husbands.
and I think the core thing that it's pointing to is the formalization of monogamy for women.
Because any pehla bhi it might have existed, but now it
Yeah.
started being enforced.
Exactly. So the psychological reason that you're giving, it might have existed way before.
With being enforced.
I don't think so.
Of
Okay.
course it
Psychological
is.
reason
Of
might
course
have been
it is.
there.
Because essentially when men were going out for hunting and gathering, they were insecure about women engaging with other men, and that is when they enforced it on them that you are not allowed to engage with other men.
But
because
Tarit was an egalitarian
because
society,
that
right?
is something, yeah, so that is something that they will ruin their chances of biological child being theirs. It started from there, it started to be enforced from there, and started or continued to be enforced from there. There was no
Okay.
relation of
But as
owning,
Anshi
there was no
pointed
relation
out,
there was no relation of owning a farm or having a choice of your biological child at that particular era. That is all my disagreements right now. It is
Yeah,
something
I
that
get what
existed
you're
since
saying.
start. It has
I
been,
get
it
what
was
you're saying.
formalized since start.
But see, if you look at it logically, right, we lived in an egalitarian society back then, right? Paleolithic era, it was an egalitarian society. So even if it was being enforced on a woman, she was not forced to follow it. Why? Because her contribution was as important as the man's contribution. But if you come to the Neolithic era, when farming started, it started being a bigger affair, and
You are looking it as an equal contribution. They were not.
मैंने just की थी कि 60% of the food came from women.
You think that now we know that majority of calories were consumed.
But how do we know that they did not consider
are
women
never
equal?
as valued as the meat was.
Sorry?
Sides are never valued as much as the meat was.
We know that now, they knew that then. What I am saying is,
So
अगर
they always
carrot
thought that if there is no meat, they will not eat the sides. Only if there is meat, that means that they have dinner.
that is not exactly
Do you?
That is what they used to think.
I don't understand. A time ma, was there so much to? I feel like a time ma polygamy या फिर monogamy, all of these things were not given as importance as they are given right now. They did not care. They just needed basic survival skills. એટલે એમનું મગજ જ develop નહોતું થયું to think all those
Yeah,
things.
they were
in the
not.
early Paleolithic era, human minds were not developed enough to have the concept of, ownership, ego, and stuff like
Yes,
that.
but hierarchy still exists, and we are able to observe that
Hierarchy
hierarchy. In that
existed.
hierarchy, I am saying that it is not era dependent. Then that these things have
I
been
think, for
arrived or
example, in
formalized.
No, I
Paleolithic
am
era,
talking.
I think in Paleolithic era, if a woman had multiple mates, then the competition would be between the mates. The man would rather go and kill the other man rather than killing the
They
woman.
used to do that. That is something that you can observe in chimps also.
Let's do a nerdy about that.
Yeah.
Let's
okay.
get back to the
Nerdy
topic.
about monogamy, polygamy, whatever.
Okay, so when I say that monogamy on women started being enforced in the Neolithic era, I say that based on archaeological evidence. I don't deny that monogamy.
I don't agree with that archaeological evidence as such.
Okay, so Babylon, Mesopotamia, right?
Yeah.
Mesopotamia was one of the earliest civilizations. And Emma, there's a treaty of Code of Hammurabi, which was established in the city of Babylon in the civilization of Mesopotamia. And that is one of our earliest archaeological evidences of laws and norms of society that force women to be in monogamic relationships and allow polygamy for men. I don't disagree or deny the fact that it existed before that, but this અહીંયાથી આપણને ખબર છે that it was sure કે આ તો હતું જ. So that was the first loss of autonomy for a woman. If you
Levels
look at
of
it.
enforcement,
The
right?
first level of
According to the
enforcement.
evidence.
हाँ समझ गया.
Yeah.
But like even during the Mesopotamian era, if you look at it, women and men did have equal roles in society. Not exactly equal, considering enforcement had already started for women, but women weren't considered unimportant. They weren't as important as men, but they weren't as unimportant as we think of them now. So even then, that was sort of where patriarchy originated. It never originated because a man wanted to be above a woman. It originated because that is how it worked out in practicality in back then.
Yeah.
And see, even now, I will never deny the fact that a woman, if there is 100 people working on a farm, 50 of them are women, and if during the course of the harvest season 20 of them are pregnant, and all of them obviously have at least 2 menstrual cycles in one harvest season, their productivity will go down. I have never denied that biologically men were designed to do more work than women, because you don't have to carry a baby inside of you, right? Scientifically, if you see, after having a baby, postpartum recovery, a woman will never go back to the body she had before she had the baby. Okay, women with C-sections. I know so many women in my family who had C-sections. The scar still exists 40 years after the kid is born. You never go back to the body you had. You never truly go back. Body image issues, not professional athletes have quit sports because their body could not go back to the way it was. If you look at Marie Com's documentary, she had to work so hard to get back in the game. Not pointing at the fact that you should not make documentaries for living people. Completely, completely diverting from that right now. But if you see, I have never denied the fact that in certain cases there are places where men would work better than women. I have never denied that. But then there are also places where women work better than men do.
Yeah.
Right? If you call women emotional creatures, if you call us creatures of emotions, if you think that women think more from their heart than they do from their mind, blah blah blah, then they make better therapists. They would make better psychiatrists. And if you think that this whole notion of, why you should excuse a man's behavior because, oh, women mature earlier than men do, then if a woman matures earlier than a man does, why is she not in charge? Why is a man still in charge? Why is an immature person still in charge? These are just excuses you give so that a man's behavior can be rationalized. They're not actually true. No child, no daughter will mature faster than the son. के हाँ ये तो छोकरी छेड़ले વધારે जल्दी mature थे. We've engraved that into the systems of our conditioning. We've engraved that you're the caretaker and he's the provider.
Do you think this argument of mature women is made so that they remain obedient?
I
in family?
think it's made because there is no other sense of power that he can give the woman. He doesn't want the woman to think that she's above everyone else. So he just says, "Na, tu to mature, so tu samjhi ja."
That is an excuse.
It's an excuse. It's a bloody
So
excuse.
I think what it does is that it makes women think that, hey, you know what?
I'm
I give you the
mature.
appreciation of
Yeah.
being mature. So that you'll have to listen to everyone, you'll have to absorb everyone's mood swings, you'll have to
Yeah.
absorb everyone's anger, etc.
Yeah. I get called mature for my age a lot. Okay, I get told that, oh, you're so mature for your age, or you're so mature for being like a 17-year-old girl. I don't take it as, oh, I'm mature, so now I have to take every perspective into consideration before I make a point, because I have to think about everyone's emotions. That is what most girls are led to believe. If you're telling me I'm mature, that means I should be in control. That is how I look at it. I don't care if it is selfish to look at it that way, okay? I've lived in a world where for 10,000 years I've been told that my body is not as important as a man's. So if you were to today, you were to come up to me and tell me, oh, you're so mature for your age, I would tell you to put me in charge. With no shame.
Fair is fair. I wanted to ask about the working week again. For all of the women here, do you think it would be a better world for you if there was 50-50, 50-50 population in working, for example, in software engineering, for example, in business, 50% women, 50% men, or it would be a better world where you guys had the choice to work rather than 50-50?
Okay, so, yeah,
Is
continue.
choice
Tu
more
बोले
important
question
or
I think
division?
I answering to that, I think choice is very necessary factor. If a woman does not want to work, and if that is her choice, that is not something she has
Enforce
been
or force,
brainwashed
yeah.
into believing, if that is not something that she has to follow, if it is something that she has chosen for herself. Like if some woman wants to be a homemaker, then there is nothing wrong with that. It is also feminism because she is getting the choice to do that.
And one more thing, if you look at it in a perspective, in like a man's perspective, I think just as all women have the choice to be a stay-at-home mom, whether they're conditioned into it or they are given a choice, I think all men should have the choice to be a stay-at-home dad. If your wife wants to go out and work and you like to stay with the kid, stay with the kid, man. Let her work, let her do her thing.
In fact, I think
100%.
That's the dream.
That's what.
That is the dream. I want to find a guy who wants to be a stay-at-home dad. Even though I don't think I will end up having children, I still want a guy who can take care of the house. मेरे को नहीं आता, मेरे से नहीं साफ होता room.
मेरे से नहीं बनाया जाता खाना.
I struggle with making Maggie, man. मेरी हर बार नीचे चिपक जाती है. I cannot stay with someone who can't cook because I can't.
I have only started making Maggie on gas since last 3 years. उससे पहले मैं माइक्रोवेव में डाल देती थी सब कुछ कि भाई बन जा जैसे बने.
बनता.
मैं सैंडविच गैस पे टोस्ट नहीं कर सकती हूँ. मेरे को टोस्टर पे ही डालनी पड़ती है.
तू जाता है खाना बनाना?
हाँ हाँ सीख रहा हूँ.
So
Yeah.
basically, what I'm saying is the whole concept of patriarchy has taken away so much autonomy for you guys also
Yeah.
in the name of giving you societal power.
Agreed.
What if a man doesn't want society? I don't want societal power. I just want to stay at home with my kid.
Castration. The main factor is emotional castration.
Exactly.
They have taken you away from your humanity as well. Because see, from the very start, your
Crying is
USP was
unmanly.
what?
Crying is unmanly. That whole
Yeah,
concept.
from the very first motion, your USP was okay. Your USP was that you earned money. Now back then, women didn't have that opportunity, and also the relations and the arranged marriages and all were made on that point.
Yeah.
Now that money is not a factor anymore. Like me at my age, I'm earning. At 17, I started earning. No, I don't think so. That is the factor I would see in a man right now. So what differentiates the man right now in this era? Nothing. A lot of guys made their whole personality about their careers and earning money.
Yeah.
They didn't pay
There's no
attention to
emotional
their
depth.
hobbies. Their
There is no
emotional
emotional
depth,
depth.
yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think do you think that the dating market has been also made in favor of men who earn more?
Yeah.
When men are forced to become these as जो
Yeah.
USP बोला,
Okay, so
not just because of patriarchy but also because of how dating is structured.
Yeah.
Because men are always the pursuers.
okay, the whole concept of oh, she's such a gold digger. Okay, if you're misogynist enough to call woman a gold digger, you are also digging emotional labor in her, right? You are also digging the fact that oh, she will cook for me, she will clean for me. So if you've been looking for that in women since time immemorial, what is wrong with a woman looking for a man with a silver spoon? हाँ चाहिए मेरे को पैसा.
You're such an emotion digger.
If you expect levels of emotional depth for a woman to understand that you've come home after such a long day and you know that you want food served to you,
Yeah.
you want yourself
Will
taken
take
care of,
care
you
of you,
want
baby.
your laundry done, then I also want someone who will take me on a shopping spree every weekend. You're talking about needs, these are my needs.
Interesting. Then we also ये
Also-
follow up question बनता है
हाँ,
इसमें that societal roles change होना, interchange होना. For example, man cooking and woman going to work.
I would
Man
love that.
earning less, woman earning more.
I would love that.
Do we look forward to such world?
I look forward to such a world.
We absolutely do.
I want to spoil my man. I want to earn more than him. I want to get him stuff. क्या गलत है उसमें?
चलो shopping spree पे मैं ले जाती हूँ.
Then do we think that the world should be based on personalities rather than gender? For example, a man can be empathetic and a woman can be
A man
hardworking.
should
or
be
female.
empathetic.
अरे वैसा नहीं.
Everyone should be
Listen,
empathetic.
as you pointed out, that there's that men look for emotional security in women, while women look for example,
See,
physical security हुआ.
women look for monetary security because emotional security मिलती ही नहीं है ना. तुम जिसके पास भी चले जाओ नहीं मिलने वाली है. तो जो मिल रही है वो तो ले ले.
Rather, everyone
Bare
should be
minimum.
holistically, yeah, everyone should be having every bit
Yeah.
of that.
See, a man who doesn't know how to cook or clean is just as bad as a woman who can't earn for herself.
Fair.
Okay.
I think cooking and cleaning is not gender biased.
Cooking, cleaning, and providing yourself are basic human skills. A woman who can't earn is just as bad as a man who can't cook and clean.
It's
Considering
like
that
you're
there is.
hungry, you cook.
Exactly.
You can learn cooking, you can order something. There's no gender
See,
bias.
every person who has ever had to become a single mother has to every woman who's had to become the sole provider, has made ends meet even despite of all the inequality that exists in the world, right? So अगर तुमको भूख लगे तो मैगी बनाना सीख लो ना यार.
Barabar. So basically, these things should be gender neutral.
They should be gender neutral.
Everything should be.
How did
gender neutral.
empathy become a woman's skill?
Agreed.
It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
skill.
Not a skill.
It is a human skill.
Exactly.
That's
It's a
what I
human-
told. Na, you've been castrated from the human emotions
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Exactly, and see, it is not completely your fault because if we go back to the egalitarian era, right? Once when men started owning land, controlling land, what happened is there was inherent psychological pressure on them because if your crop fails, you fail to provide for your family, right? And even if your wife is able to work, she won't be able to work properly three days a month, 4 days a month. So then you've kept her subordinate to yourself because you want to be able to own the land because you believe that you've done more work. So when your crop fails, it is considered your failure. And then if you cry about it, it will affect your status in your community. So you were told not to cry. Why? Because a man doesn't cry, he finds a solution. You were told not to fail. Why? Because if you fail, you're failing your family. Why? Because you've become their sole provider. It is 10,000 years of conditioning, which is why you think twice before you cry in front
They
of
are
someone.
never left with their emotions. They intellectualize their emotions and analyze their emotions in a way that they have become so practical.
Okay, I want
Not
to ask
emotional.
this to the men on panel. Do you guys feel difficulty when it comes to feeling and pointing out the emotions, naming your emotions?
No.
No.
A man who can't fight patriarchy is not a man.
But then you have to understand that so many people in today's world, they're conditioned like that, right? अगर तुम 4 साल के बच्चे को बोलते हो कि मत रो मत रो मत रो, वो 18 साल का होकर नहीं ही रोने वाला है. Because he thinks he is letting his dad down if he cries. He is
But
letting
अगर वो
down
चीज़ वो
being a
सोच नहीं
man.
पा रहा, आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पा रहा, तो इंसान
It is
mind
a
by word C है.
Yeah.
it is
basic है ना.
it is a flaw that people need to work on, but with the society that we've been conditioned to live in, so many people are not able to recognize their flaw because it is so normal in their lives, right? Even people, okay, so many of guy friends that I've had, so many guys in my class रड़े सुन छोकरी छे सो.
That is a
Get it?
statement. That is a statement
So-
every man has said. Okay.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. Now, if it is something about me, how I fought that kind of incident, I cry when I watch a baby movie. Okay. Any baby movie. Anything
I cry
that
when I watch a movie.
So any movie where a baby is either being born or either something around that baby is happening, I cry, and that is something that is default to me. I'll cry loudly in that particular instance. So when I was crying about that particular scene or something like that, फैमिली में जब लोग बैठे थे इन जनरल किसी ने मैं रो लूँगा मेरे को फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता तो एट दैट टाइम दे वर लाइक कि तू रोने क्यों लगा दैट क्वेश्चन नाउ दे न्यू कि आर्ग्यूमेंट आने वाला है सामने से दे वर वेरी केयरफुल विद इट बिकॉज इन जनरल इन माई फैमिली दे आर वेरी केयरफुल
Same.
बाय सेइंग समथिंग अराउंड मी तो दे वर लाइक कि रो क्यों रहा है सो व्हाट दे वर ट्राइंग टू मीन इज कि लड़कियों की तरह रो क्यों रहा है इज व्हाट देयर इंस्ट्रक्शन आई एम लाइक कि एज अ मैन इफ आई कांट क्राई दैट मीन्स आई ऑलरेडी लॉस्ट
Also, one more thing, you have to understand that when you say something in slang, you mean it as if it's a bad thing. So if I'm telling you that रड़े के हमसे छोकरी छे सो, I mean it as a bad thing.
Even लड़कियों की तरह गाड़ी चला.
लड़कियों की तरह गाड़ी चला रहा है,
I'm
लड़कियों
the
की तरह
best driver in the whole house. My dad sleeps in the front seat. That's how
That
much
is a
I
very good
trust
quality.
me.
Exactly.
Very
So
good
now,
quality.
when
You
you
don't
say
find that
that, right, you'll never catch someone telling a woman, why are you earning so much? Are you a man? Because all qualities associated to men are generally considered superior than all those associated
Yeah, I
to
want
women.
to point out
Agreed.
something. When I was 17, I just started my business and I was preparing for my JEE exam. So I had to work for like 16 to 17 hours. So I used to hit the gym, go to the school and also work on my business clients and everything. And the very first thing the therapist pointed out was you are acting like a man. Why? Because I'm hustling so much. And even right now, if I go to someone with my emotional problem, they are like, you are in your masculine energy.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing, when we look at it, over the years, through the evolution of patriarchy, being a woman started to get looked down upon. I will give a very simple example. Bailey is wearing a shirt, I am wearing a top and pants. No one thinks anything is out of the ordinary. Imagine you would have walked in here in a skirt. There would be a 10-minute laughter.
There would be.
how much was Harry Styles mocked when he wore that skirt on the magazine cover?
A lot.
And why was Priyanka Chopra not mocked when she was wearing a suit on the cover of Forbes? Because we've been conditioned to think that being like a woman is being degrading, is being inferior. You know, when heels were made, they were made for men, they were never made for women.
Yeah.
They were made because after wars, battlefields માં એટલું bloodshed અને એટલી dead bodies હતી કે કોઈને ફ્લેટ્સમાં એમાં પગ નહોતો મૂકો એટલે એમણે heel આપી દીધું, so you're never touching that.
Well, I thoda much disagree with that with Harry Styles' statement because fashion no to, I mean you're a fashion student, you would have noticed that what men wear these days is more gender neutral.
Yeah.
So suits are not a men's wear, suits is a neutral wear. Shirt is not men's wear, shirt is neutral wear.
But-
on the other hand, a skirt is something that only women wear right now, at least in our world. It might have been prevalent for men to wear skirts back in the past, but because it's out of place, because it's odd, because it's not what a person of this gender wears, that's why people might laugh at it. It's not because
So,
they're
yeah,
So
misogynist.
clothing,
that's what
it's
I'm
the
saying,
type
right?
of clothing, like लड़के भी skirts पहनते हैं, but the length and the way
Yes.
you look at the kings, you look at Rishabh Rikhiram Sharma, the sitar player. I just go to his concert. He wears the whole thing, but that is not similar to what girls wear.
Okay,
Even
so
banjo
there is a
players
bit
used to wear shirts.
People laugh
differentiator.
just because it's out of place.
I tell you,
That's all.
yeah, it is something that is a odd situation. It is not something that is linked to the gender situation.
Okay.
Exactly.
So-
It is odd for a man to wear skirt. That is why it is being laughed at. It is not
So,
because of
the
women wear
reason-
skirt and now that men are
Okay.
wearing
Yes.
skirt, that is why they are so.
So if you look at the evolution of fashion, right? If you go back to the era of Coco Chanel and like before Nazi Germany and the first runway show and stuff like that, what used to happen was that women had these corsets and men had armors and padded shoulders and stuff like that. And what we started doing, why women had corsets, because they were expected to look a certain way, they were expected to be as small as possible. In a tribal community in Africa, they used to put metal plates on girls' breasts because they believed that if you had bigger breasts, you would be sexualized, and if you're sexualized too much, no man would ever want to marry you because they will always think that other men are looking at you. So they grew up with metal plates attached to their breasts. So when the evolution of fashion,
Physically attached to the
physically
body.
attached to their breasts.
All right.
And in some cultures, it was considered that the smaller your toes, the more marriageable you are. So they used to put girls in ballet flats 2 sizes smaller than theirs. So એ મોટા થતા થતા એમનો આખો ફૂટ ડિસ્મોર્ફ થઈ જાય. So you understand how when these corsets were also made, right? Any પહેલા બી when women worked in agricultural farmlands and stuff, ત્યારે they also used to wear what men were wearing because it was more convenient, right? So ત્યારે all clothing was what? It was gender neutral. પછી the gender neutral clothing became male clothing, and women's clothing started to become more restrictive, more confining, and more ornamental, because women were looked as upon as this crown jewel that a man has rather than a partner. So now when you look at it, if we're going back to gender neutral clothing, that's not an issue. But if we reverse it, that is an issue. It is an issue because you can't imagine a man in something that restrictive. Obviously it looks odd, वो कभी देखा नहीं है, वो अलग बात है. That is also obviously a contributing factor to why we laugh at it, why we consider it out of the ordinary. But we also consider it out of the ordinary because somewhere in our psychology, why is a man wearing something like this? Why does he have a corset? उसकी waist को छोटी होने की क्या ज़रूरत है?
So if I'm understanding this right, you're telling me that कि अभी की जो fashion sense आई है, that what gender neutral clothing is, comfortable clothing is, it is all suited to the men and men are more accustomed to it. Rather, women are forced to wear something that's not so comfortable and they're forced to treat their bodies as
No. See, that's how it used to be, right? Corset, in the age of corsets. અત્યારે પણ corsets હોય જ છે. Okay, હું એવું નથી કહેતી નથી હોય છે. But અત્યારે I wear it because I think I look good in it. ત્યારે they had to wear it because they were a woman and they
Yeah,
did not
I'm only
have
talking about the origins of it.
So when it was originated, right, women were expected to dress ornamentally to please a certain class of people, not just men, also women. If a woman went out in society wearing loose clothes, she was considered to be of a lower class. Okay, if you watch Bridgerton, I know it's fiction.
Yeah.
I know it's fiction, but if you watch
The
Bridgerton,
corset.
right, what Sophie wore was different than from Daphne wore. if you know the characters. What the
Yeah, the
okay,
maiden.
what the maid wore was different than what the daughter of a person of society wore.
Acha.
So basically, for both men and women, clothing has always signified class. I've never said no to that. But for men of all classes, that clothing was still comfortable, and they could still go fight someone in it. But for women, a woman in a corset and a ball gown can't defend herself.
Do you think
against
it was
someone.
because man's work was considered to be more important and women's beauty was considered to be more important?
See, it was after a certain point, it was because society na isma, women did not really have itlu to kam, right? All they had to do is look pretty and go to balls. If you were a woman of a lower class, if you were a maid, you had work, then your clothing allowed you to do that work, right?
Right.
But if you were like a queen or a princess, you're a woman of a higher class, higher order, then you were expected to dress a certain way to maintain your status.
That
in
was your
society.
asset basically.
Okay,
your beauty
answer
and
one
this.
question for me. Were battle suits comfortable or not?
They weren't comfortable, but they protect. It was a shield, right? When
Now,
talwar
here's the
aage
thing.
to aave.
Here's the thing. I personally feel that it is wrong, but still the angle that you are coming from is something that is not right. Women are made to forced to wear something particularly. Not the example that you have given, but the example of Bridgerton or of all of these style. Their style were different because they were supposed to look attractive,
Yeah.
right? For men, they had comfortable clothes in general, but as soon as they were going to battles, even they had uncomfortable clothes. The comfort as a point as just something that is started to start now.
Okay, so
It was not something that was attached to them earlier.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
them at that
So-
particular time, it was all about being attractive.
I get that.
So-
But see, bol.
It is unfair that
What?
women had to dress according to their attractiveness 24/7. Men only had to dress for or be uncomfortable for the time
ठीक
when
है,
they
ये
were
पण
in
ठीक है.
battle.
A man being uncomfortable wearing that shield and armor and that metal clamor to protect himself was for his safety. A woman dressed uncomfortably
I
for
am
a
saying-
man's attractiveness.
What
But
I am
her
saying is,
agenda
in
was also
general,
to look attractive
Yeah.
in front of people, no?
It was that, but then you have to also understand that
comfort is
The
not a
on-
metric that was there at that particular time.
It
is something that we are
wasn't.
taking. It is something that we are taking just right now as a metric.
Comfortable clothing
Right.
is a concept.
And
that
it is
existed
unfair
before.
that women are forced to wear or be something that they are not, or be something that where they appear to be attractive. It is uncomfortable. But the part where you are taking example of that is something that is wrong, because at that particular time, for women, they were supposed to be attractive.
Yeah.
Like, it is something that similar to that, like loosely similar to the statement that we even say right now, that women wear makeup because they want to look attractive, and men lie because women.
Mozzie said it.
I think something
Yeah.
similar to that. Like that
Men
they-
lie because women believe what they hear. Women
Yes.
wear makeup because men believe what they see.
Yes, so it was from that is the line of thought that they are following when they are talking
Yeah.
in that particular
So
style.
why the reason I bring that up, why women had to dress a certain way to be attractive to men, it was because a time पर ये करवू पड़तू तू मैं नहीं कहती कि नत्तू
You don't
करवू
need to
पड़तू.
defend yourself. I'm
Yeah,
just saying out
but
what you-
again, if you look at it from the evolution of a patriarchy sort of perspective, they went from being providers to mothers to symbols of attraction. That is where my problem lies. That is how it correlates to the evolution of patriarchy. Okay, the first part of bodily autonomy that she lost was that she would no longer be with multiple men. That monogamy practice thava lagi, be it from the hunter-gatherers period, be it from the Neolithic era. Then she lost political authority because she wasn't involved itlu badhu kaam ma. So people started to believe that if she's not working, then she doesn't have a say in what work happens. And it went down to a point where now the sole purpose of her looking a certain way was to attract men.
I want to bring the discussion towards the issue of women's safety. I have been watching reels where women are being asked that if you are alone in a jungle, would you rather be with a man or with a bear? And most women, as it is observed, choose a bear.
Yeah.
And what a lot of men look at that, including me at a particular point of time, feel bad about this. Why are men being hated? Why are we being treated worse than a bear? I mean, a bear will literally kill you. So what is the logic behind that?
I think that is not something which is literal, which is applied literally.
Yeah.
When you are literally, it is a metaphorical way of choosing that would you rather die or would you rather have the chance to be with a
Still
man.
Miss Henry.
Yes.
Still Miss Henry.
No, not not misandry.
Okay,
is
so
misandry.
if you
I think
if you
it
were
depends on the person who's asking the question. Did they have the topic of already, discussing about feminism and what the women have been going through? And if they ask that, okay, if this situation comes up, would you rather choose to be with a man or with an animal? So they say it metaphorically that we cannot trust men because we have gone through something,
okay,
which is I
I
think
will
is
give you a
wrong.
very simple example.
Not
If you ask
practical.
me,
No.
man or bear, I would pick bear because I would rather die if someone bit my head off than be raped.
So the kind of
Plus one.
understanding that we have here is that we are in a room where we understand that तुम लोगों के viewpoints set है, right? But in the videos that we see, a lot of videos I've seen that the women are literally just hating men. They're saying that not because of
That is
the
That
logic
is
that you guys
pseudo-feminism.
have.
Yeah, that is
That
right.
is
That is
pseudo-feminism.
pseudo-feminism,
That's what
exactly.
You guys saying that you will choose bear is also pseudo-feminism.
But
I would say that I choose a
We are
bear.
not understanding
I'll tell
where
you
we
why.
are
Yeah, okay,
going.
you tell us why.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You gave example of men raping women, like it's something that is wrong and something that still men do. What if I say that I don't want to be with women because women are pseudo-feminist?
You're right.
Okay.
Okay,
fair.
don't be with a
Because
pseudo.
a
We
minority of it is minority of women are doing it, and that doesn't mean that I'll judge the majority part of women saying that they are also
We
If
are
you
not
want-
sure.
in similar way
No, I
if
get where
men
you're coming from.
yeah if similar way if there are less part of men raping, in that particular case scenario you are sure that bear will kill you. Here there is still chance of you surviving.
Yes.
Still you are choosing a bear. That is pure disrespect of men that you are not
Yeah,
able to
I
Again,
agree
trust.
on that.
I would
And
rather,
that
I
That
would
is why we
rather.
consider that as
This is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
subjective.
Adding
If
on
we
to
ask,
It is. Women say that out of fun. They don't consider the part of them disrespecting us,
Exactly.
but
See,
it is pure
And
if
disrespect.
you
here is-
ask me-
Anshi, here is what we feel when we listen to all that, right? We feel that okay, we are trying our best, and yet women will consider us worse than a bear, and it literally comes off
Yeah,
as
yeah,
disrespect.
obviously.
You might have a logic, you might think it's a metaphor, but it does come
Give
off
Dev
as
mic, bhai.
Oh,
And
it
you know-
does come off as
Yeah, yeah,
disrespect.
And
It
you know
always
what
does.
happens?
Yeah.
Even if
Ande. एक second.
Pay me.
नहीं जाना जाना you can.
No, no, it's fine. Pachi, text me.
And even the I mean there's I think a lot of us might have a certain ignorance regarding what actually not all men but always a man
Yeah.
means, but even that to an extent to a lot of men it feels like why do they say always a
And
man?
you
I
know
will
what
tell you something.
happens
I want
is
to answer this. It's completely subjective of what kind of a man you are with.
Actually, it is statistically not subjective if you look at it.
If we are sure that we know this person, if I know this man and if there's a bear in an option, I would choose the man whom I know. And if there's an unknown person, so there is a chance that that man would be of a minor like
Okay.
that
Out
ratio.
of
But you know
100,
what
how much?
I feel
एक
as
second,
a
एक second. Out of 100, how much?
As in,
If there are 100 men that you had to choose from,
yeah.
out of
I would
that,
choose the bear.
I would choose a bear.
out,
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
that,
I
if you
would-
only had to choice, how much of the men have chances of them raping you?
I don't know, man. I'm not sure.
We don't
Can I pull out
genuinely
statistics?
feel this is
Can I pull out
disrespectful.
stats now?
Yeah, I kind of
Huh.
agree with you. Now, what is happening is that you have created a notion that any kind of man who's unknown to you has a hidden agenda
Yes.
to do something bad to you. So you're automatically, setting a preconceived notion that this thing is going to happen,
But-
and all men are like this.
Okay, but see,
I-
a simple
I-
example.
my
This is
point
true.
was- I don't mean that.
I would like to say something. Let's say there is a box of cookies, okay, and you know
I gave him that example yesterday. Yeah.
and you know that three of the giving cookies are poisonous, okay, just 3 out of 7. Okay. Would you take the risk of eating and trying even one cookie
If
from
I'm
that
hungry,
box?
yes. If I don't have any other choice, yes.
If you don't have
But if
any, yeah.
okay, here's the thing. There are two box.
Okay. Okay.
One has a cookie where there are chances of all of the cookies being poisonous. There is another cookie box where there are chances of only 3 cookies being poisonous.
you're hungry.
Where would you eat from?
And you are hungry. You haven't eaten for days.
Okay.
You
I-
guys are still picking the poisonous part.
I would pick the one with three cookies poison, and I'll tell you why. I will tell you why, and I will correlate it to the man and bear. If you look at rape cases in the world globally, 99% of women who have been raped by men. 98% of men who have been raped by men. The Indian Penal Code that is
So what?
okay.
Let
If
her
you
complete.
ask me, man or bear, I would pick a man I know over a bear any day. Okay, I would pick any of my friends over a bear any day.
No, you
Okay,
know,
I'll tell
I
you
understand
what's
you
there.
know
I'll
one
tell you
perspective.
Okay,
I am still
ठीक है,
saying.
मरवाना chances aside,
हाँ.
I would rather die at a bear's hand than be raped at a man's hand.
Agree.
I get it.
Because
I
see the
still
way-
want you guys to stick to the cookie example that you guys gave me. There are 2 cookie boxes. The one there are 100% poisonous, all of them. One there is only 3 poisonous one. Which one would you pick? And you
If the
guys
3 is
did
slow
pick-
poison, then I would pick the full poison. I don't want slow poison. I don't want to be raped. I don't want my body to be violated for 2 hours.
that is something where you guys are getting wrong. That is what if we will do, you guys will attack us. I am saying, pointing out to the same thing. If I judge all the women on basis of some pseudo feminism, that is wrong.
Okay,
Just
very
like that,
simple
for a
psychology.
women to
Anshi,
judge
no,
all the
that
men
is not
because men
okay,
rape
that
is wrong.
yeah.
And
Okay.
this is where I come when you said to me that I should not stigmatize feminism because feminism is different from pseudo feminism. This is the same logic that applies
Yes.
to you picking
Yeah.
a man over a bear over
So,
a man,
okay.
because you should not stigmatize
હવે હું
the
તને
man
કહું?
as like
હવે
that.
હું બોલું? So now, if for example I am a girl, it is 12 a.m. I am walking alone at an unknown city at night. You are a man walking in that same city. In this scenario, I don't know you. You as a person know that you would not do anything ever to make me feel unsafe as a woman. But I am a girl who even in my own city have been chased around in my Uber. So I will not trust you, right? In the same way, if today Sneh, you are dating someone and she cheated on you, you would think 20 times before you go out on a date with another girl that you don't
Which
know.
is wrong.
That is human
Which is
psychology.
wrong.
Which is wrong. It is
Me
human psychology.
me
It's wrong.
implying
Yeah,
anything
it's
that
a
happened in
human
my past to
psychology, but
someone
if you
else
look
is
at
wrong.
objectively, it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong,
And
but
it is
it's
not wrong for you. It is
Association that is
see, I am
happening
saying
right
it is
now.
not wrong for you to not trust men. Completely fine. You should not trust men because men are stupid. I agree with that statement. Men are bad. I agree with that statement.
I don't not
But you
trust
guys
men.
are
I don't
choosing-
trust all men.
See, yeah, completely fine with that. But you guys are not choosing. You guys are not choosing men over death. That is
Yeah.
disrespect of men.
Okay, no, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a perspective.
I would rather
The-
disrespect a man than be raped. Okay. Period.
Completely fine by it. That is just disrespect of men.
I'll
That
give you a
we consider
perspective.
this as misandry. This is misandry.
Okay, so you don't know. I don't want to undermine what you don't know, but I think you don't understand that what it is like being a woman living with the fact that you have been raped, and while you had the option to just die. I would rather just die than take the risk of being raped.
Completely fine.
Okay.
And we are sorry we are not able to understand
Okay,
it, but
how
you
is-
guys picking up a bear in front of
I would
us
still pick up
is a disrespect.
Okay,
And
so
that
what
we
if I
will
were to
consider
tell
as
you
misandry.
that આ દુનિયામાં
એક
જેટલા
second.
રેપિસ્ટ છે આ દુનિયામાં જેટલા મેલ રેપિસ્ટ છે વોટ ઇફ આ દુનિયામાં એટલા જ ફિમેલ સિરિયલ કિલર્સ હોત in a situation where that was true, where okay, in India in 2017 one rape happened every 16 minutes, one recorded rape happened every 16 minutes. Let us forget all those who weren't reported. Okay, બધા ભૂલી જાઓ, થયા જ નથી. ઓકે ફાઇન. એમાંથી જેટલા થયા એમાંથી complaint ફાઇલ થયા પછી less than 50% went to court, less than 10% got a sentence, and less than 5% finished that sentence.
That's the failure of Indian system.
That is the failure of every system in this world. That is not just true for India.
Yeah.
Okay, that is okay, I told you that. હવે imagine આ જેટલા male rapists હતા આ same stats હોત for female serial killers. Okay, for female abusers. And then I were to ask a man in
Yeah.
your position, okay, you know, would you pick?
Still pick a woman.
I think
I still pick women.
Anshi, the point
Then
was
that is
made.
તારા મગજની greatness.
I
Yeah.
just want to
My point
point
ask.
was
my
made
point
when
is
you
you guys are
asked
choosing
about-
a bear. You guys are choosing death over us. That is disrespect of men.
We are not choosing death over you.
Over
We
us.
are choosing
Us is a men. It is
Yeah.
men.
We are men.
That point.
We are men.
मैं तुझे क्या बता रहा हूँ? मैं तुझे क्या बता रहा हूँ? We are men. Like अगर दो दरवाजे हैं तुम्हारे पास, दोनों दरवाजे बंद थे. तुम्हें तो पता नहीं था कि तुम्हारे जान पहचान वाला कौन था पीछे.
Whenever I answer that question, I say an unknown man. I never say a man I know. I say I would pick a bear over an unknown man that I've never met in
How
my
many
life.
videos have you come
Choices never
across
there
where
in
they
the
say an
question.
unknown man?
Competition is not you versus bear. The competition is risk. of
Why
a
I was
man
not
being
addressing
rapist
Sanjana's
versus
answer was because that was not in the question. You guys picking known man is something that is perfectly fine. Agree with that statement. But the fact is that you guys are not picking if that was not part of the question. If you are not like given a choice of answering that as a question, you
If-
guys are choosing
He's
where.
speaking from
Yeah, it
Yes.
is something that is disrespect to us as a man. As a
Exactly.
man, I'm feeling disrespected because you are not choosing
Like,
men
I
because of some
haven't-
reasons that
Imagine we are
exist.
two men who are sitting here learning about patriarchy and still we are
Because I cannot stop rape. If I had a chance or if I had a choice to stop rape, I would most definitely do it.
Rather, what it tells us is that hey, women hate us, so why bother?
But you are judging me because of that rape.
Yeah, but I would
That is
like to,
disrespect.
yes, I would like to add, like, when you ask this question, bear versus man, you automatically start thinking that unknown person is gonna rape you. And that is what is offending them, their
Selective
sentiments.
bias.
That is wrong.
So
That is
Okay.
when you put
I'm
us
saying if
okay,
I start
okay,
judging
listen.
women on basis of how much they cheat, that is wrong from my
Yeah,
side.
When
that's
you
wrong.
put us in a situation
But
where
I wouldn't blame you for
compared
judging women based on how much we
You
cheat.
should.
I wouldn't.
And
Why
you're a
I wouldn't is
misogynist, you
because
should stop me with that.
every
You are being a misandrist, I should stop you about it.
every single woman that I know, including myself, has either been eve teased, molested, groped, raped, or knows someone who's been eve teased, molested, groped, or raped. Now, अगर मैं अटला બધા લોકોથી આટલું બધું સાંભળ્યું હોય, it is bound to put a notion in my head to stay away from unknown men. When you ask me the question, bear or
we
man,
are not
You
But a
know
bear.
what actually is
the
happening?
competition is not you guys versus bear. You should not
That's
take
never
it
in the
personally.
question. That
No,
was
no,
never
wait,
in
wait,
the question.
You
continue.
are taking it very personally कि यार we are men and we would not do it to the woman.
no, see, I don't blame you for taking it personally.
I'm not taking it personally. I am saying that to choose a bear in front of a man in general, if I am not even putting myself in the scenario.
Because when you put anyone in a situation कि जहाँ you are putting bear versus something, so bear automatically when you hear a bear, you are in a jungle and there is a bear, you think of a worse scenario. Okay, then you are tend to when you compare it with something, you tend to think of worse scenario.
Okay, just
Okay.
after this, please
Psychologically.
think about this.
I will
and,
explain one more
Please
thing.
think about
Okay.
it.
Furthermore,
what is happening actually-
Furthermore,
Yeah,
what I mean to say is that कि इसका negative impact women पे ही आ रहा है, because if we operate from paranoia, you gave the example of if, for example, a woman cheated with me and I would start looking at all women as cheaters, that would be wrong of me, and it is in my responsibility to make sure I look back at my trauma and heal from it and look at it from a
Exactly.
neutral point of view,
You
rather
can't
than
heal
look.
from a
एक
trauma that
second,
keeps
एक
happening
second.
every day.
So that's bad, but you should still do that. That would be beneficial to you if you would be able to
Stop
trust
that.
men better.
See, I will explain one thing.
Yeah, एक second. If you would be
हाँ,
able to
बोल।
trust men better,
Bear versus man, a woman would choose bear.
if
Why
You
would
cannot stop
we?
that.
Why would
Because
we?
you cannot stop rape from happening.
We'll accept your answer, but we still think it is disrespectful.
Yeah, it
We
is
still think it is
disrespectful.
misandry.
I
See,
feel
I am sorry
wait.
that you are the nice guys who have to go through this generalization.
Yeah,
that
just
we are
for us, you could
I
have
am
chosen
sorry.
it.
I am. We are
Wait,
sorry.
wait.
Just for us, you could have
it's
chosen it.
bad
No, it
at
is
the end
not
of the
about
day.
We are
women.
sorry if
It is
you're
not
feeling
about women.
disrespected
Wait,
by
just
something
one.
like that.
The thing is, instead of eradicating misogyny, we are trying to become misandrist. I know the reaction why the misandry is happening because of the experience you guys have felt, but that is not the right thing to do.
Yeah, still
Okay.
not justified.
Okay, I will explain this very simple concept. I completely agree with what
Yeah.
you're saying. Okay, pseudo-feminism and misandry are just as harmful to our society as patriarchy and misogyny are. I advocate for that
They're
openly
harmful
and
for
frankly.
women, first of all.
Just like misogyny harms men,
How will a
misandry
woman
harms women.
live if she's not able to trust anyone?
Exactly. And I've never denied that misandry is. I've never said that misandry is a good thing. I've never said that pseudo-feminism should happen. Okay,
But still, you are doing this.
we live in a world where આપણી પાસે આપણે economy control ના કરી શકીએ. Okay, one person can't control the economy. Recession થાય, inflation થાય. We can't control all of it. It happens, it's a system. We live in a world where politically, in so many places, we have choices, but we would rather not pick any of those choices. All of them are equally bad, right? So we, in some sense, we don't have control over that. Climate change is happening, it's inevitable. AC ચાલે છે એટલે બહાર ગરમી થઈ રહી છે, બહાર ગરમી થઈ રહી છે એટલે AC ચાલે છે. It's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
In some sense, all of us have control of our body. All of us have control. આ હાથ હલ્યો મારા કંટ્રોલમાં છે, આ હાથ હલ્યો મારા કંટ્રોલમાં છે, board my head મારા કંટ્રોલમાં છે. When we're raped, that autonomy, what the only autonomy I had in today's world, don't have economic, political, social or climatic autonomy. This is the only autonomy I have. This is the only thing in my control. I decide what food goes in, I decide what drinks go in, right? And if my drink was spiked at a party, I was drugged and raped. If you've seen off campus, that's what happened to Hannah, right? If that happens to me, if I lose the only autonomy that I have in the 21st century, that is a level of violation that I will not be able to recover from, right? And I've never said that I would pick a bear over one of you guys, or I would pick a bear over a person that I know, a man that I know. 82% homicides that happen, 82% female homicide victims are murdered by their husbands. Marital rape is not considered rape. In marriage, it is considered that sex is a need, and if you can't provide that need to your partner, that is considered valid grounds for divorce. That is why marital rape does not exist in most countries in the
Yeah.
world. In countries, in so many countries, women are banished from hearing other women's voices, from going out of their houses. So yes, if you were to ask me, I would not care how misandrist it sounds, but I would rather be dead than raped, because I would not want to lose the only autonomy I have in today's world.
Mm, Here is my
And
understanding
I
of it.
understand that it's disrespectful, but people like me have been disrespected for so long. So call it revenge, but yes, I would not want to be raped.
Here's my understanding of it. Uh, I totally empathize with what you said. I totally empathize with. Uh, at various point of time, women have come and told me um, the kind of world they live in is totally biased against them, and I get where they come from. Me and Sneh as men get where you come from, but if we are constantly told that they would choose a bear over a man, our willingness to be better for women will be coming from a position of effort. हमें हम ये चीज इग्नोर करने में effort लगाना पड़ेगा. It still stinks us somewhere, right?
What is happening? You are making decision on the basis of your personal experience, or maybe the fear
But
you're
it is
getting.
human psychology to do that,
Yeah,
right?
but
You
अगर
have
तुम
the
किसी को
human
बोलोगे ना,
psychology to do that. But for example, if
We
I've
are
been through
allowed to
something
feel
and
human.
I just make it a universal thing, then people who are actually trying to improve, who are
Yeah.
actually trying to get on the right track, they feel that no matter what we do, women are gonna hate us.
Yes, that's the point I'm trying to make. हमें बुरा लगता है.
Just one thing on this last question, okay? If there is a human and there is a bear, who would you pick?
If it's a human and a bear, I'd pick a human. I know that all men are human, but I would hope that that's a woman.
Perfect. Okay, just one thing on this. After this, let's just end this because ये spiral में चला जाएगा उसके बाद. There was one question which was actually moving towards the solutions. I think we should move now towards
Yeah.
the solution. The question was from Harshal, of course, and he said that
Love you, Harshal.
the question says that how to remove the creamy layer of pseudo feminism ताकि
Yeah.
collectively society समाज ऐसा पाए where feminism is not against men, it's just about rights.
Yes.
So let's just start talking about it. How to remove the creamy layer of pseudo feminists.
Okay, so I feel like when feminism started in the suffrage movement in the 1890s, right? It was basically because women wanted to get paid for the work they did, because they also had households to run. So again, it arises out of a place of necessity. But as all humans do, we saw an opportunity to make it about ourselves. So we did, right? So when patriarchy evolved, ત્યારે શું થયેલું કે એને લાગ્યું હતું કે मैं काम વધારે કરું છું તો ચલ આ જગ્યા મારી. That is how patriarchy started.
Yeah.
How pseudo feminism started is કે હા ચલ આટલી મળી જ રહી છે, તો if I have been put below men for so long, let me put them below me for once. That is how pseudo feminism started. So essentially we live in a society where આપણે hierarchy જોઈએ છે. We need hierarchy to survive. We cannot imagine an egalitarian world because we haven't had it for 10,000 years, right? So that is why if it's not patriarchy, it has to be misandry. That is engraved in our heads. Why? Because if there is no hierarchy, if it is all egalitarian, the concept of power vanishes. The concept of money, that men have more money, so either men have to have more money or women have to have more money. We don't આપણા મગજમાં જતું જ નથી કે an equal world can exist.
There is
Why?
no balance.
There is no balance. Why?
Extremes
Because
everywhere.
if you go to a person whose mind is engraved with misogyny, they will think that equality is the reversal of what is going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So in the same way, if you go to someone whose mind has been engraved with pseudo feminism, they will think that equality is flipping the hierarchy, when in reality feminism was about changing it, not reversing it.
Do you
So
think
at
men are
every
operating?
point, if men start thinking about, or in general people start thinking about how the part or the decision they are making can be equal for both the parties, that will in itself slowly remove pseudo
Exactly. However, this whole concept, okay, oh, man can't slap a woman, then why does a woman slap a man? Because you raped me, idiot. Because, okay, હવે અગર આપણે કહીએ that hitting a person is wrong, right? So if Slapping a man should also be wrong only.
Yeah.
But then again, you also have to consider what that slap was in the response to.
Hmm.
If my body was violated and I violated સામે વાળાનું body, then that is a matter of law કે કોણે વધારે violate કર્યું, કોને સજા મળવી જોઈએ. Okay. And one more thing about pseudo feminism and how we can eradicate it is actually start giving men the rights they never had. Okay. Start, first of all, include men in the definition of rape. Just how it is so bad that marital rape is not a thing, that you believe that because you're married your body can't be violated by your partner, it is also so wrong to assume that because you're a man you must be enjoying it.
Hmm.
Right, so both of the things need to happen. You can't focus on only one and completely ignore the other. You have to do both those things. And just how you assume that a man has to be educated and a woman has to know housework. Okay, if you look at it, women are expected to cook and clean, right?
Hmm.
The best chefs in the world are men. It's because we assume that a woman's qualities are only important when they're serving their household, not when they're serving professionally, right? So, in the same way, we think that a man's qualities are only important if he's providing for his family, not if he's actually taking care of them.
Hmm.
You would assume that a mother working is not contributing to her family because she's not with her kid. You would also assume that a man staying home taking care of his kid is not doing anything because he's not getting the money in, right? You look at it from both ways it's wrong. No person should be expected to do both of those things. You can't expect in the same way that you can't expect a woman to work the whole day, still come home and cook. You also can't expect a man to work the whole day and still completely be present for his family no matter how bad a day he has had.
Hmm.
Both of those tasks are emotionally and physically straining. You can't expect women to do this, you can't expect men to do that. Right?
Yeah.
But because of the world we live in, we're conditioned to think that a woman who works is wrong and a man who can't give his family emotional time is wrong. Where in reality, there has to be balance. We as a world have become extremists to a point where if someone is not conforming to gender norms, even in the slightest way possible, you would assume that a man wearing the littlest bit of makeup is gay. Why? Makeup should be gender neutral. Okay, you have dark circles, you don't want dark circles, you use concealer. Doesn't make you gay. We as a society have become extremists. We think that a hierarchy needs to be established in order for the world to survive, which to an extent is true. If there is no hierarchy, if everyone has the same level of rights, if everyone has the same level of autonomy, maybe there is more crimes. Okay, maybe it takes us a while to take control of that. But even today, we see that the world is controlled by those who have money and power, right? And we think that feminism, pseudo feminism, thinks that a reversal of that is what the world needs to survive. So, pseudo feminism thinks that women should have the money and power. Where in reality, when the concept of feminism was started in the suffrage movement by Charles Fourier, he coined the term feminism in France. It was called feminism because the oppression was happening against women. He did not coin that term because he wanted a world where women were above men. He coined that term because he wanted a world where a woman was getting paid for her work so she could support her family because the man wasn't living.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Tarjini, you go ahead now.
About what?
About how to remove the creamy layer of pseudo feminism.
Uh, well, I feel that first of all, you need to look into the educated crowd first. Because there are people who are extremely fluent at English, they are well educated, maybe they've done masters, PhD, everything, and still when you ask about the basic equality question, when you ask about the basic equality questions, they fumble, they hesitate. So I think when you're teaching your sons, also teach your daughters for both the genders. Teach your sons about both the men and women for both men and women. So that's how you'll understand both the perspectives. You know why this misogyny and misandry is happening? Because people are not understanding each other's perspectives. So we need to start doing that as well.
To add to that, the biggest problem, which is why we have misogyny, which is why we have pseudo feminism, is because we have a lot of educated illiteracy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
You think you know everything when in reality you know nothing. If you see Friends is a very famous show, right? Ross thinks that Ben playing with a doll is like, oh, but Adam wanted to turn out gay. He thinks that his son exhibiting behavior that was typically expected out of a girl means that he will turn out to be gay.
And I'll be very happy if the media, film, and music industry, these three change, because these three are the highest consumption. If you look at Guru Randhava's song Azur, if you look at Badshah's song, they are very highly consumable. If you look at movies like Animal, now Ranbir Kapoor has the power to reject. He has the money, he can survive with the existing amount of money he has the power to reject it. So again, he comes from an educated background, or he at least comes from an awareness background, but still he won't do it.
Right.
That is a deeply rooted, and and it is very subliminal. It slowly injects and affects everyone.
And because see, if you look at it, if everyone has anyone here watched Off Campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Point
I've
reels.
heard, yeah.
So off campus, ma'am, basically you don't see any toxic female friendships. You don't see male with ego complexes. Even like the biggest playboy on that show still asks before he kisses the girl that he actually likes. Okay, we as a society have come so deep into our patriarchy that we think that, oh my god, he asked her, that is such a good thing, when in reality it is basic human decency. In the same way, if you were to, if I as a girl was to go on a date, some way or the other I would also assume that, if the man is dressed well, that he earns well for himself, that he lives on his own money, that he's a big shot at a job. I would never think of asking him if he's a stay at home dad, what relationship he has with his kid, if he's a single dad, or what are his hobbies aside from the work that he does. Because I, as a woman, am so deeply inclined to believe that his only role is to provide, right? And there's a very basic psychological concept that when you see a situation, the first thing you think is what you're conditioned to think, the second thing you think is what you want to think. So if I was to look at a girl wearing shorts 5 years ago, I would have also sexualized her. Why? Because we've grown up in a world like that. Today, if I see a girl in hot shorts, my first thought would be, oh my god, that's too short. My second thought would be, but like as long as she is comfortable. My first thought was what I was conditioned to think. My second thought is what I want to become. So many of us don't have that second thought because हमको लगता है कि हमको जो सिखाया वो सही है. When in reality it's not. It is wrong, just how it is wrong for a guy to go to a girl's baby shower and gift her a Barbie. It is wrong for me to go to a guy's baby shower with a set of Hot Wheels. What if he likes Barbies? The conditioning damages both genders. It is more visible damage to women because our bodies and our pay scale is threatened. But at the same time, you guys are forced to earn a certain amount of money because the woman expects you to earn, because she has the privilege to not earn, because that's what society expects of her.
And even I want to ask this question. You are with your homies, you with your guy homies, we girls are there, and you're in a relationship. How many times have you guys talked about how to treat a man well and how to treat a woman well when you're dating? That's not happening as well.
Like
For example, if
discussion between men on how to treat
Veli, we all are sitting and I'm dating a guy, we are not talking about, okay, is he feeling safe with you? Is he emotionally validated? Or does he have any problem, any trauma, any hidden trauma? How is this working out? Similarly, if you and uh, Sneh,
Yeah,
you are
we two have
sitting,
discussed it a lot.
Like us sitting in this room, I've also discussed it with my friends. We've
but
all
many
discussed it.
people do
But that
not.
is
There's
because
just
But
he
we are
one.
the
is brave.
exception.
That is why we had to discuss it a lot because he had a lot of questions. He had a lot of
Yeah.
curiosity, and I like discussing those things. That's why
Yeah,
we did.
exactly.
But
Like,
That is
many
something we
people
have
do
developed
not.
personally.
We
We
are
have
the
inclined this
Rather,
because we are nerdy people.
rather, I would like to tell you that whenever men hang out, and this is a real thing, whenever men hang out, there are more discussions on how to be better than a woman, how to seduce a woman, how to play the game,
and when
rather than how to understand her,
yeah,
make her
and
feel
in a
safe.
room full of
Even
women,
in
we're
women, we
discussing
are
what to wear on dates, how to look
not
for
So
just
this
things.
is
that.
something that me and they have
In
discussed a lot because when we talk about women, it's very different than when we talk about women with other guys being involved.
Yes.
and not just about what we wear and all. We are like, should we ghost him a little bit to make him chase more of us?
Yeah,
Should we do this?
and not
Should
just
we?
that. I've actually discussed friends of mine have discussed with me. Does he look like the kind I should have pepper spray in my bag for? Does he look safe enough for me to go without pepper spray? Get it? We as a society have been so conditioned to think that you're only right if you fit in societal norms. That if I am a woman, like today, any feminist, if you're a feminist and a stay-at-home mom, oh, you can't be a feminist. You're conforming to their norms, without realizing that I had the privilege of choice to choose to be a stay-at-home mom. In the same way, a man working a big shot job, you're like, oh, you're a feminist because you're not doing anything out of the ordinary, right? You fit into what is expected of you, but you still think that people should have the choice. We think that people fitting into societal norms can't change them, which to a certain extent is true if you've been forced to fit into those norms. But if you've chosen that, I want to be a stay at home mom, I like cooking for my husband and kids, you will be villainized for that. Why? Because, oh, you're a feminist, why don't you work, why don't you earn the money? Because I have a man secure enough in my relationship to want to earn the money while I choose to want to do this, right? Where we've become extremists to the point where we've taken the privilege of choice from both men and women. Just like I don't have the choice to go out and work at the same pay as a man doesn't have the choice to be a stay at home dad and still be respected as a mother. Right? A man taking care of his own child is babysitting. A woman going out to work late is she was asking for it if something happened to her.
Okay. Dave, you tell us how to remove creamy layer of pseudo feminism.
I think it all begins with choosing a balance and not going too far, keeping away from extremes, understanding each other, empathy. Empathy is the main thing again, I think. If a woman wants to respect a man, just ask him how he would like to be treated. And if a man wants to respect a woman, he should just ask the girl how she should be treated. Furthermore, there should also be a space for accommodating each other's past hurt and trauma, because we cannot just look at women who have been oppressed for thousands of years and tell and expect that they'll be perfect, they'll be completely not having any flaws. They won't go a little bit misandrous, they won't go a little bit far, because there should be a little bit of space of accommodation, that everyone will go a little bit far because of where they come from, and it will take time. That's all I think.
Okay.
Exactly. So, Hawezi, to add to your point, if you've seen the movie New York करके movie, जो John Abraham, Katrina Kaif, right? If you see that movie, he has deep trauma from when he was arrested, right? You can't expect him to be normal because he has years of trauma of being in a confined space, of feeling claustrophobic, of having panic attacks. I like to put it as a woman born in today's world carries some form of 10,000 years of PTSD with her.
Yeah.
And you can't just come back from that.
Yeah. So although me and Sneh might have disagreed with you right now, कि भाई this is disrespectful, man versus bear, uh, but yeah, we understand.
Like,
See,
you
trauma
can.
does not come off easily. That is true.
Exactly.
It's just the space you give and the time you give to it.
You can hate something and still understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate the way the system is today, but from all the research I've done on the origins of patriarchy, I understand where it came from was not what it became. I don't like what it became, but I understand where it came from.
Yeah, I think there's also great need right now among men to have these discussions, uh, because it is not cool to be a feminist among men. If you would go and talk about women's right to men, they will just call you.
Shrug you off.
Yeah,
They
and
will
I
just
have
shrug
tried
you
to
off.
have this debate with my friends. He was present at that
Yeah.
particular debate also, and
Because you
nobody
think that
agreed
just
to it.
because it's called feminism, it is only catering to them.
Yeah. Furthermore, you will be labeled as a trying to be nice, trying to get women by being feminist.
Same.
You get all the labels.
Yeah.
अर्शल ने लिखा है बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग स्टेटमेंट है आई अग्री विथ देव टुडे आज के लिए जो देव बोल रहा है ना उससे मैं अग्री कर रहा हूँ बाकी देव जो बोलता है खराब ही है भाई बस आज जो बोल रहा है ना उससे मैं अग्री करता हूँ नाइस नाइस यस वेली गो अहेड नाउ यू टेल अस हाउ टू रिमूव क्रीमी लेयर ऑफ pseudo feminism.
I think the point that Anshi mentioned earlier about the power and hierarchy, I think the layer, the norms to decide the power and hierarchy should be on the basis of knowledge and competence of a person, regardless of what gender they belong to. So the gender norms should not really exist when it comes to power and hierarchy. कि इसको ये करना चाहिए, we should remove the चाहिए.
As you should.
That is one thing that
Okay.
should be done, and other understanding each other more, having these conversations and making it cool, making men comfortable with these conversations,
Hmm.
letting them know that I want you to listen to me, to my story, but at the same point I also am someone who wants to listen to your story, where you come from.
Hmm.
And also the fact that you guys are great and you are able to point your emotions out and name them, but in 21st century so many men are have so many emotions, and they are so confused about what they are feeling right now that they cannot exactly point their emotions out, because emotions are unnatural for
Hmm.
for men. So maybe normalizing that men can feel and express emotions would help.
Interesting.
I think women have a lot to help in this particular scenario because men who are emotionally distant from themselves become more emotionally connected when they come with the right partner.
But then you also have to understand that just as women cannot expect men to earn and provide for them, emotional labor is also very difficult. You know how this whole concept of fixing a man originated, right?
Yeah.
I don't support that. Why? Because I want to help. I want to help you become a better person emotionally, financially, however you want to be. But just how it shouldn't fall upon men
Oh,
to
it
earn
shouldn't.
for their women, it also shouldn't fall upon women to make
To
sure men
It,
are
make
it
sure
feeling
that
things,
shouldn't.
right?
men are
Because like
It,
it's not my job to make sure you don't lash out at me.
Yeah, that's why I disagree with last statement made by Dev.
Yeah.
I don't think it is dependent on
oh
someone
no,
to
it
have a
should
better
not be.
partner.
What I'm trying to say that a lot of
Like
look, they can
I
help
think
them.
men should have brain to improve themselves.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter
Agreed.
that whether they have a better partner or not.
I think men should have the brain for that, but when they are not able to do that, well, 50% of the work they can do, but it's still nice to have help.
Yeah, it is
obviously,
nice
it's
to have
obviously
help.
nice to have
And
help.
Paid
furthermore,
promotion कर रहा था तो
furthermore, furthermore, it's not a gendered thing. For example, a man can be more emotionally available, and a woman can also be
Yeah,
emotionally distant from herself.
avoidant and anxious तो
Yes.
दोनों जानते
So
हैं.
rather than look at it from a gendered
हाँ.
perspective, just that हम दोनों एक दूसरे की खामियां पूरी करें.
See, psychologically, if you see, there is two types of attachment that people have in relationships. Usually, एक मानस ने anxious attachment और एक मानस ने avoidant attachment और the person with avoidant attachment is the sort of person who would want space after a fight. The person with anxious attachment is the sort of person who would want to talk things out right as they happen and find a solution. And 9 out of 10 times they end up together. And there is nothing wrong with that. Opposites attract.
No, I don't think so then.
In a lot of
Because
cases,
मैंने
I'll tell
भी
you
research
why.
देखा है
No,
थोड़ा.
not research, it's personal experience. bro.
No, I'm validating you. ऐसा research देखा है कि it's very
Opposite attract when they both are aware and are ready to heal for each other.
yeah,
Yes.
opposites
So
attract
that's where
in the sense
awareness
when
and healing journey comes into play. Like they've said, they should be willing to put in the reps
yeah.
and heal themselves without the dependency of the other.
Yeah. So if I have a partner with avoidant attachment, and there are people who have a hybrid. There are people like me जिनको खुद को नहीं पता होता कि उनका attachment style क्या है. Because sometimes you want space, sometimes you want to talk things out, and it is very difficult to be with people like that because you never know what they want. Even they don't know what they want a lot of times, right? But if you're someone whose attachment style is avoidant, and when yours is anxious, you both have to be willing to understand that that person taking space or this person trying to talk things out is their way of showing that they care.
Yeah.
And the person who has an anxious attachment also has to understand that some amount of space is necessary. The person who has avoidant attachment also has to understand that if I take too much space, I'm telling the other person that I don't care. So if you're willing to understand each other's languages of attachment, then you can be together. But if you don't have the emotional maturity to do that, which honestly you can't expect 14-year-olds to have the emotional maturity to do that. Okay.
You can't expect 30 years old to have it as well.
Yeah, because with the
It
society
depends
we
on
live in,
how
most
deep
people
your
don't.
trauma is
So
rooted.
expected from a human.
It is expected from a human, but obviously development to जो fruit and development. You can only have that once you enter the genital stage, which is after the age of 13. But once you enter that psychological stage and you don't have that maturity, then very respectfully, that's a you problem.
It is.
Very respectfully, ये તમારો વાંધો છે.
I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say is that અત્યારના જમાનામાં છે ને, there is in this world there is a huge need of having conversations around mental health because most people don't understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
We in this room know what anxious and avoidant is. Most people don't understand that. They just assume that they don't care.
That's a whole other nerdy about.
Agreed.
Yes, we can do that.
Nerdy about psychology / mental health.
Done है भाई. Yes, Sanjana, go ahead now.
Okay.
Remove the creepy layer of pseudo feminism.
I have
Touch just sounds wrong for some reason just saying that.
Clear
Yeah.
You keep saying that.
Remove patriarchy from the discussion now.
Yeah, I mean, I have almost similar points to all of you. One point which I want to add is that whenever we see it happening practically, we knowing and we being aware about all of this, we should take some action in any form or shape that we can at that point of time to at least make that one person aware about what we think and what we think is right, and we think that it's not very appropriate of what they are doing. So I think we should take at least these small actions so that we can like eventually and gradually remove that creamy layer of pseudo feminism. Yeah.
Nice,
What do
interesting.
you think, Sneh?
I think that let's just first of all stop being angry in general, like whether it be men or women. Men should not be angry on women for something that happened to them or something that happened to other men. Women should not be angry for something that happened to other men or to happen to them men. Because as soon as we'll stop being angry, that is when we'll start being empathetic for each other. And that is when things like misogyny and pseudo feminism both will stop. And all both of them needs to stop for patriarchy to end.
Obviously, I
Because
agree with
both of them are primary reason of patriarchy. Because at the end of the day, if we don't remove that, we'll end up in again in patriarchy. As soon as feminism rises, if misandry starts increasing, men will start building patriarchy again. Because
Obviously,
they'll
and
stop
then it'll
see
be like a
logic.
never-ending emotional
Yes.
war.
So
Yeah.
just for misandry to not win, just for patriarchy to not win, women needs to be less angry. And just for feminism to not, like pseudo feminism to not win, men needs to be less angry.
That is how it started. It started with Andrew Tate, then it started with
Yeah,
Hamza.
that
Yes.
happens.
And now,
Indians
because
start
of
there.
Andrew Tate, we have
Indians
Rebel Kid
start
who
there.
tries to be. We have Wizard Liz. That is
Indians
how the
start
cycle
there.
keeps
It
going
started
on.
way
It started
before
with
that. It just commercialized there because they had the view, they
see,
had the
it
reach.
started with patriarchy, then it ended up with feminism. As soon as feminism started to build up, they started noticing pseudo feminism. As soon as pseudo feminism started to have, that gave birth to
That's
Andrew
what
Tate.
I'm
So
saying.
it
The
is
media.
human nature to look for
Yeah, Andrew Tate
opportunity.
is not product of patriarchy. Andrew Tate is product of pseudo feminism.
Hmm.
So also one
Exactly.
more thing
Exactly. Plus
to
one.
remove the creamy layer of pseudo feminism. Has anyone heard of the term acts of microfeminism?
Yes.
Does anyone has yeah? Okay.
No, please
Okay,
tell us.
microfeminism is basically very small things that you change in your daily life to support the notion that men and women should be equal. Very small in the sense that you know how men always believe that a woman is supposed to make way for me. So okay, अगर मानो भाई आज चलता है ना रास्ता पर and if he's gonna cross paths with a woman, my brother's first instinct won't be to move away and let her pass. But that woman's first instinct would be to move away and let him pass because in her head of conditioning, इन्हें वो लगता है कि he has something important to do, but he will not think that.
This is something new to me. I have never
Okay,
thought like
so
that.
basically acts of microfeminism. Okay, for example, if you look at body positivity, right? Or every Disney princess you see will have a 10-inch waist.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single Disney princess. So when Moana was introduced with curly hair, that was an act of representation,
Yeah.
right? And then when Moana live action,
I think Moana is better than all the other princesses out there.
I love Moana, and also when Moana live action was released, right? There was a lot of backlash कि आना कहते थे मामी ना वाड़ વધારે curly लागे छे, right? That the representation wasn't there. So basically, when we talk about representation, right? If you ask a 7 or 8 year old boy, there was this whole survey where they asked 5 to 7 year old boys to run like a girl, and they run like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
They
all
ran
seen
every
it.
single one of them.
देखा है,
They asked 7 to 8 year girls to run like women, and now all of these girls had seen Mana Patel, they had seen female runners, they had seen female high jumpers. They sprinted. All of the guys. This was like to run like a girl. No, that's not what it's like to run like a girl. So when you talk about acts of microfeminism, there's this one case of this mother who read her comics and stories and cartoons where there was a female lead. So when that girl was asked at the age of 5 that they're going to see a doctor, she automatically assumed that it was going to be a woman. And in so many years, because we've seen that representation, opportunities, when you think of a lawyer, right, you would think of a man. When you think of a doctor, you would think ato aadmi jaise. So many people think that. I know none of us in this room would, but so many people think that
Yeah.
because we're conditioned to think that. You know the word scientist. When you say scientist, right? When the word originated, men were called man of science. And જ્યારે પહેલી female scientist બની ને ત્યારે એ છોકરીને scientist કહેવામાં આવેલું. So essentially when you say scientist you're referring to a woman, but people in our day and age don't know that because they would obviously assume, oh, scientist, oh, Albert Einstein. They would obviously assume that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, designer, okay, and then they would think of Coco Chanel, they would think of
I
John
literally thought of Coco
Galliano.
Chanel.
Yeah, they would think of women. I'm not saying they wouldn't. They would think of Coco Chanel. They would think of John Galliano. They would think of House of Gucci, and there is so much.
I thought of Sneh, designer.
There is so much inequality that exists in those industries as well, because of gender, because of class, all of that. Not getting into that. Basically, this whole system of patriarchy setting men as the default has existed for long enough કે તમે નાના નાના છોકરાઓને પૂછો ને તો બધા કાર્ટૂન્સમાં શું there is a male doctor, there's a male pediatrician. In cartoons there is a male lead. Okay, Chhota Bheema, Bheem was the main guy. Shinchan was the, there's so many, so like female led cartoons કેટલા ઓછા દેખાય છે, female led comics કેટલા ઓછા દેખાય છે, and that is not just common to gender, right? That is common to, that is also applies to people of color, that also applies to people with disabilities, that applies to a lot of areas. It doesn't just apply to gender, right? So acts of microfeminism is basically you you give little boys cartoons with female leads. You teach them that your life is not the default in this world, that an entire other class exists. I will never know what it's like to grow up psychologically like a boy. You will never know what it's like to grow up psychologically like a girl. But we live in a world where we've stopped respecting the other. We need to bring that respect back, and that can only happen with representation. If a 12-year-old, okay, how many of us have period orientations in our schools? All of us, one session. How many of us have had our male peers sit with us? None of us.
Never.
It is not your
हमको तो
fault.
क्लास में बिठा के रखा था
It is
अलग
not
से.
your fault.
A guy entered ऐसे गलती से तो उसको उससे बाहर निकाल दिया.
It is not our
And you
fault.
know what? Let me share this incident. हम लोगों को थर्ड या फोर्थ स्टैंडर्ड में पीरियड ओरिएंटेशन के लिए नीचे ले गए एंड दे गिव अस फ्री पैड्स. ओके, तो हमको जब वो पैड देते तो ऐसा बोलते थे कि लड़कों को दिखाना मत कि ये क्या दिया है, गो अपस्टेयर्स फटाफट एंड पुट इट इन योर बैग. सो इवन इफ गाइज इन माय क्लास वुड आस्क कि कहाँ ले गए थे, क्या करवाया, ऐसा तो क्या है कि जो हम दे वर क्यूरियस, ऑब्वियसली दे वर क्यूरियस. So we were told that it is like a top secret mission and you do not have to tell them कि तुम लोगों को क्या दिया या क्या
A
करवाया.
girl in my class went and was like, oh, I तो मैं डाला, but that is why they did not call you guys. So you see how not just, and then those teachers telling us to do that, they're not men, they're women, right? So you guys are not the problem. You guys are a victim of a system that was designed to benefit you, but has ended up harming you as well. But if you see, right, the concept of mental health leaves is so, I don't know, so bizarre. Ke, oh, you need a day because you're sad. How bizarre is that? You know, if tane pagma wagyo, if you have a plaster on your leg, you can get a leave. But if you have 3 therapist appointments in a week, you can't. Why? Because it is considered that mental problems are not really considered problems in today's world. Which is why when we target patriarchy as a system, we think that it only harms women because our damage is tangible, your damage is psychological. And in today's world, we don't consider psychological damage because we haven't reached that point of awareness, right? So we can't say that it doesn't damage you. But your damage is not tangible, it's not seen because it may be vaguely seen in suicide numbers, but it's not seen as a tangible damage because you're getting paid more, that means you can't have a problem. Then it doesn't matter how fucked your head is.
I kind of disagree with this framing that men are also victim of patriarchy because victimizing ourselves is also bad because at the end we kind of lose agency. I think rather we should be proactive about it.
See,
I mean, now that I know, I should act upon it.
you should act upon it. What I'm been saying is that atla badha varshothi, right? We keep thinking that, oh, women are harmed because of patriarchy. Oh, we're victims of patriarchy. Oh, patriarchy apni jode aa kari kaadyo છે. It's not just women
Oh,
alone.
no, I'm talking about men being victim of patriarchy.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is patriarchy as a system victimized humans, not a particular gender. It told us that you are a certain way, and if you're not like that, then you're wrong.
It
But
caged
what
a
I'm trying
woman
to
to
say,
look
what I'm
outside.
trying to say is that because of this understanding that we are victims of whatever has happened to us, a lot of men would rather take it as, "Ke, hey, now I have a free pass to make mistakes. Now I have a free pass to
No, just
think the way I'm
I
doing."
don't think so that would
no,
happen.
just because I'm a victim of a crime does not give me the right to commit that crime.
Agreed, but
I think
psychologically,
when
thai shakya
I think
usko.
when men also learns and understands that they are also victim of patriarchy, they would more consciously work
To
towards
change it,
eliminating the
exactly.
patriarchy.
Because see, अगर હું તને કહું કે આને તને પણ harm કરે છે, that you know I'm not the reason I shouldn't be the only person changing it is because it hasn't just harmed me, it's harmed you also. So if you're actively aware of the fact that it's harmed you, you would have motivation to change it, right?
Fair.
I feel it's because we look at patriarchy in an external point of view, that you're caged from the outside world, but for you as men, you're caged from the internal world, and that's why you're not viewing it
Yeah,
as you
exactly. So
can be
obviously,
harmed.
Ajay, if you look at patriarchy from a, you know, if you zoom out and if you look at it from an entirely third gender, non-human perspective, let's say you zoom out of patriarchy, what did the system do? It gave you power over what happens inside your house, but it systematically took power away from you for what happens outside of your house, right? So એને શું કર્યું? It gave you some sense of power so it could take all other sense of power from you. What did the system do? It made you slaves, right?
Yeah.
Men were made slaves, women were made slaves, right? It used you for labor, it used you for war, it made you a soldier, it took your bodily autonomy away, but it gave you a sense of power in the sense કે પણ તારા ઘરમાં જે થાય તું કંટ્રોલ કર, ત્યાં you're the boss. So it gave you some sense of power so that when it took all other power away from you, you would not see that over getting this power because
Right.
you could control your immediate surroundings. It took the power away from you to control your system and it gave you the power to control your household.
Control your household.
And the reason women speak so loudly about it is because it did not give us the power to control our household. So અમારી પાસે એ victimization હતું પહેલાથી. But when what it did to you is it took that power away from you, gave you this power. So now you think you have power. પછી એ પાવરનો જેટલો psychological damage હતો over the years it accumulated. And because we as a society don't look at psychological damage as damage, we think that it harms women more than men. Because તમારો મગજ ડેમેજ થાય છે, તમારું ડેમેજ ટેન્જિબલ દેખાતું નથી બહાર. So we think it doesn't harm you, but when in reality it does. Just
Yeah.
because someone
I was not talking that men are not victims of that. I was just saying
કે
that
એવું
men should
notion
not
ના
feel
રાખવું જોઈએ. હા.
victimized. Victim mentality ની બારે માં
Yeah,
ખાલી
yeah.
વાત કરો છો. Rather we should be proactive. That's all I
Exactly.
was saying.
So like the crux of is that the crux is that someone drowning in a pool is just as dead as someone drowning in an ocean, right? Just because તમારો damage દેખાતો નથી doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I want to talk about because Neha said about anger, right? I want to talk about female rage. What do you guys think about that? Because that was brought up here.
I think female rage is real. Like Anshi said, 10,000 years of oppression.
No, like real, but will it help in uh, pushing down
I don't
patriarchy?
think so. It will help in any ways, but it
It's
is
just
just
a
a
mode.
way of expressing. It is a way of expression.
So if a man hears a girl being in her female rage and saying certain things he does not like, what should a man do?
First, probably be empathetic and make her understand that you are like what you guys just did. That expressing yourself, that probably not all men, although I do not like that statement, but not all men. And first, be empathetic and be a listener. And second, make her understand where you come from.
Fair.
I think female rage more than a helping factor is like a contributor to motivation that you know I have. Anger motivates us to do things, right? Anger, okay. I was angry, that is why I punched the wall. I was angry, that is why I threw the pillow, right? So rage, anger is not always a good emotion, but it does motivate us towards things, right? So if you have female rage in the right sense, it will motivate you to move towards a world of
Agreed.
equality because you would not want your daughter to have
So it's
that
kind of
rage.
like a healthy rebellion.
If it's healthy, then yes.
If it is,
Okay,
Yeah.
female rage and being like, oh, you're a man, you should stay 10 feet away from me because all men suck, that is wrong.
that is
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I saw this video and उसमें ना मोआना का एकदम parallel दिखाया गया. So they said कि female rage is like Tevi tea and उसको भी basically rage है, but she's like a nurturer getting angry and उसके बाद she's become a monster वैसा बताया गया. You've watched
No
Moana,
one's
right?
born a villain.
Huh?
The basic
Exactly,
no
exactly,
no one's born a
exactly.
villain, right?
So basically, what it tries to say is that women who are angry and they may sort of say certain things we don't like, but they still are the goddess, the nice person inside us. They still have a place they're coming from.
So I think for me, what female rage is born out of is that a country that praise women rapes women. Get it? For me, Navratri chalti hoy, right? Uh, my teachers last year, all of my teachers, be home at a reasonable hour, don't stay out too late with guys, don't take cabs, all of that stuff. And my dad is also extremely protective, and I don't blame him. We live in a world that's not safe. Not teacher. Even if it was my brother, my dad would still be like, "Na raate 3 vaga kabhi hoosh to nahi guys." Okay, my dad only trusts one of my guy friends to drop me home, which he did the entirety of last year. Sadly, now he's also moved out. I'm also moving out, so we won't be here for Navratri. But you have to understand that the 6 inches of a sari is not as provocative as the 6 inches of a bikini. You have to understand that a country that will pray Durga will also rape the Lakshmi that lives in his house. That is where my rage comes out of. The rage doesn't entirely come out of the fact that I hate men. It comes out of the hypocrisy that તમે સવારે દેવીની પૂજા કરો છો ને સાંજે તમારી દીકરીને કહો છો કે ના રાત્રે મોડી વાર ના નીકળતી, you will get raped. See, an ideal, we have this whole system ke, if you don't want to get raped, don't leave your house. If you don't want to get raped, don't wear provocative clothes. There is a museum exhibit with outfits of rape victims. It has everything from a baby's frock to a burqa.
There was also rape academy incident that recently happened.
Yeah.
So many men signed up for it.
Yes.
So there was this rape academy, and I do not remember exact number, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was over
This is
100.
millions, right?
And
It was in millions.
There were so
Millions of
many.
men signed up because they want to learn how to rape a woman and get away with it. And it is so disturbing.
And that is where female rage stems from.
Yeah.
The origin of that anger comes from a place of of knowing the fact that the person sitting right beside me in my room might be plotting how to take my bodily autonomy away from me. If
And
you've
that's
seen,
legitimate.
if you've seen Chiraiya, the show on Hotstar, if you haven't, you should go watch it. Uh, the whole idea of his chachi being like nahi nahi mera arun to kabhi kuch galat nahi kar sakta and all that crap, and then she realizes what happened with that girl, right? My female rage does not stem out of the systematic oppression of women. It was in the past. I understand that I can't change that. My female rage stems from the fact that if I were to get raped tonight and file a case tomorrow, it will still take me 10 years in court with no guarantee that my rapist will ever see a prison.
Agreed.
If okay, that is basic human rage, right? If your kid was murdered and they did not get justice till 5 years after you passed away, how much anger would you carry on your deathbed? How much anger would you live with every single day, knowing that the person who caused so much harm to someone you so deeply cared about is out and about, roaming in the streets? That is basic human rage, right? So, how much rage will I carry knowing that someone I know who has been raped, whose rapist is walking around free today? Whose rapist may even be sleeping with her every night because he's her husband and marital rape is not a thing in India. That is where female rage stems from.
She's so
Traumatized.
she's experiencing female rage right now.
You lock me in the room with the biggest misogynist you ever seen in your life. I can guarantee you I will send them out crying because I have that much rage in me. मैं स्टैम्प पेपर पे लिख के दे सकती हूँ कि वो बंदा रोते हुए ही बाहर निकलेगा. Because my rage comes from the fact that in that room, when you put me there with him, he could still molest me and I would never get justice. Even if there was a camera in that room. I don't remember who, but a political authority from the time of the freedom of India, I don't remember who said this, but someone said it. If a female is being raped, her body has legitimate ways to stop it, and if she did not, it was her fault.
Even recently, there was this statement given that if it is happening, enjoy it.
हाँ वो part कुछ तो government
Some
body
MLA gave that statement. My female rage stems from the fact that the judge trying my case may also be beating his wife. It is possible. There is no screening process for that. The screening process for the law system in India is education and qualifications. Okay, background check में कोई ये जाके नहीं देखते कि तुम घर पे किसको कितना मार रहे हो. There's this very viral video that surfaced right now that punches I can take. It is the slaps that really hit me. It is a privilege. He's a girl child. He still let me live. That is my biggest blessing.
Yes,
That
that village
Brahmin's
girl.
daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So female rage has never come from hating men. I have female rage towards so many women in my life. मेरे को इतना गुस्सा औरत को देख के आता है कि भाई तुमने सुन कैसे लिया? How did your ears have the capability to listen to what that man just said?
This happened yesterday night only. She has some issues with her ex-boyfriend, boyfriend, and there was this exchange of some words which are really not sexually good, but she was like, "ठीक है," she laughed it off. That is what's happening. They're very.
My female rage comes from the fact that every single time there are guests at the house, my mother's in the kitchen, my father's sitting with them. Even if it is my mom's friend, then both of them are in the kitchen. That is where my female rage comes from, right? It doesn't come from hating men. I may even hate women more than I hate men. I may hate women because how did you let it happen to you for 10,000 years, man? बुद्धि किधर थी तुम्हारी? I get that you did not have the autonomy. I get that suffrage movement started so late. I get that if I was born 200 years ago, I would be killed for just saying the things I said in the last 2 hours. But where were you when it all started? How could you not fight? My female race stands for the fact that if I don't fight, 10,000 years later, someone else is going to sit at a podcast that will be called Nerdy Award in whatever language exists at that point of time and say the same things at me. I can't have that happen, right? That is where my rage comes from.
Yeah. Do you guys understand that the things that have been said here, most men would never hear them?
Yeah.
Fine by it.
I am not okay with it. मैं हर
I'm
आदमी
also
के
not
कान में
okay
जाके
with it. I
चिल्लाती
mean,
हूँ.
come on. That's just shitty, man.
Fine by it. चलो
This
anyways,
was a
we'll-
very heavy
Rather, there will
discussion.
be people who will tell us कि तुम लोग ये क्या करके आए? Were you there to get sympathy or whatever?
तो जब मैं आया तब भी बोले बहुत सारे लोग right?
पूरी फीमेल पैनल क्यों रखी है और
हाँ.
लड़कों को भी रखना
We were
चाहिए.
told that, but
I
we were
told
like,
him to
nah.
his face that I would love to have an all-male panel.
But no, we wanted to have a female panel
I
क्योंकि
wanted
हम
to
लोग
have
को
a-
तुमसे सीखना था.
Yeah, yeah. Next time we strike this up, please invite an all-male panel and please let me speak again. मेरे को मजा आता है.
Sure.
Done. Chalo, bhai. With that, we've been talking for 2 hours, 16 minutes, and it was
That
an
is
amazing
insane.
conversation. Thank you so much for the people who are here until now. तो एक आध दो ही बचे हैं भाई, but
कौन कौन
whoever
हर्षल
was
है
there
क्या?
until now नहीं है भाई. I think वो गया, but whoever is there, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to all the panelists for
Yes.
sharing your views, opinions. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely conversation. With that.